Tumekuwa kipaumbele kudadavua taarifa za kutwa kila siku kwenye Open Forum Political Show. Tangu Januari, sasa Disemba tunayo. Tunachukua nafasi ya kipekee kusema asante mtazamaji na mpenzi wa kipindi cha Open Forum Political Show na Sound Candid Talk. Unaposherehekea sikukuu ya Christmas na mwaka mpya, tunakuahidi mema zaidi. Sound Candid Talk, we wish you Merry Christmas and Happy 2025.
After nearly a week-long vote count, Kenya's Electoral Commission chief has now declared the Deputy President William Ruto as the winner of the presidential polls. This followed last-minute chaos as 4 senior election officials distanced themselves from the final results. The 4 of 7 electoral commissioners told journalists on Monday that they could not support what they called opaque nature of the final phase of the vote verification process and thus cannot take ownership of the results.
Hello. How are you?
Some things need to be put out there. As you can see, the 4 of us, we are here, not at Bomas of Kenya, where the result is going to be announced because of the opaque nature of how this phase has been handled. We therefore cannot take ownership on the results.
According to official results, Ruto has narrowly beat his rival and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga with 50.5% of the vote. The 77-year-old former Prime Minister, who got 48.8% of the vote, was running for the post for the 5th time. Ruto, in his acceptance speech, thanked the Kenyan voters for their support and told the opposition that there is no room for vengeance in his government.
I want to promise all the people of Kenya, whichever way they voted, that this will be their government. I know many are wondering, especially those who have done many things against us. I want to tell them that they have nothing to fear. There is no room. There is nothing. There is no room for vengeance. There is no room for looking back. We are looking into the future. I am acutely aware that our country is at a stage where we need all hands on deck.
News of Ruto's win spread in Raila Odinga's stronghold of Kisumu. Large numbers of protesters came to the streets of the lakeside city to denounce the results. Protesters hurled stones and burnt tires as they blocked roads. The police also fired tear gas to disperse the protesters from blocking the roads. Odinga supporters also entered the restricted area near the Election Commission on Monday, accusing electoral officers of tampering with the vote. This is because Odinga's campaign can now challenge the results in the Supreme Court as it did successfully in 2017. The court declared the 2017 vote invalid over claims of voter fraud. A fresh election was later held that was won by outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta. The turnout in this year's election was lower than expected. According to reports, the election saw only 65% of voter turnout in the 9th of August vote. This reflects the wariness of Kenyans seeing the same long-time political figures on the ballot. Frustration over poor economic conditions and soaring cost of living crisis were also seen as the main reasons for the low voter enthusiasm this time around.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you're watching. Thank you so much for making time to join us. This is Sound Candid Talk, Open Forum Political Discussion Show, the show that gives you an opportunity to hear what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, today we have our plate full as we will be looking back from our history of elections and the two links that have been placed in between the conducting of elections and the swearing in of the winner of the presidential election specifically. And that is the IEBC and the Supreme Court. How have they played? Have they aided the betterment of our election system, or they have complicated it further? Do you feel as a Kenyan that the IEBC and the Supreme Court are helping things, or they are just part of the problem? This and more will be looked at as different Kenyans from different parts of the world will be here at Sound Country Talk looking at this extensively. And then, of course, we need to make an informed decision. Right now, the crisis is the IEBC is unconstituted as at now, and there is a crisis. We have constituencies that have no members of parliament, some county regions that are yet to be refilled for one reason or another. Now, without the commissioners at the IEBC Secretariat has no mandate to conduct by-elections. Now, all this is coming at play, and it's nothing new looking at our history. When we look as back as Moi days, the election day and the Electoral Commission seemed to be handed over to the president as a tool to use, like Moi was known for snap elections. Now, we'll be looking at this all together. Are we back at the time when Moi used to use elections as a tool to punish opposition leaders, or rather, or opposition in his politics, that he would call snap election at any time, and he was the alpha, the omega of the whole thing? Are we getting back there, and is Ruto getting away with this? So as we begin to engage, I know this is not a popular approach towards what we usually discuss, but I think we need to begin to think as Kenyans, because some of us get, carried away emotionally and, avoid to think deeply on matters until it is too late. Today, I don't want us to be too late. I want us to give it all the thought it takes, all the energy it takes, all the attention it takes, until we get to the bottom of what bedevils this country. Why is this country on her knees every time there is an election cycle? Why has the IEBC not got it right? Not 2013, not 2017, not 2022. Is it by default, or is it by design? Something that we need to ventilate on the same. I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Furaha is here. Ayaga is here. I'm expecting Bishop. We are going to have a great time as we explore this particular tool. So quickly, let me salute those on the comment section as we start out. Dahi Abdi, karibu kwa show, asante kwa kufika. Esther Stoll, welcome to the show. Thank you so much. Mohamed Ege, karibu kwa show, asante sana kwa kuwai. Anasema IEBC is the main culprit in our elections. They are foreign puppets. So too is the Supreme Court of Kenya. CJ Maraga was the only one who made the difference in the history. Thank you for the observation. Well, we'll be looking at that extensively. And then for your information, there has been an election in Ghana, and I think the run-up has already conceded defeat, and the Electoral Commission is waiting for result, but they have already, everything is running according to schedule. Why is Ghana getting it right when Kenya can't? What is wrong with us? Something that we need to ventilate on. Ubuntu, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Tunim Hamuda, our PS, asante sana kwa kufika. Talia Bless, karibu kwa show, asante kwa kuwai. Anasema, without commissioners, we are taking Kasongo Syria. Syrian way, he must be ready for exile at Museveni's farm. Museveni is looking for farm boys or something. All the same, asante sana, nashukuru kila mmoja. Naomba tumakinike kukaribishana, kumbusha mtu kwamba show imeanza, na naomba pia kuwajulisha kuna shida na main channel yetu ya YouTube, Sound Candy Talk. So tafadhali kumbusha mtu kwamba show iko kwa Sound Candy Talk live backup channel. Hiyo channel nyingine mimi nimefanya kesi sasa ni siku 2. Makosa yetu yamefanywa nini? Yale yalikuwa makosa yamerekebikwa, lakini kurejesha our live broadcast imeshindikana. So I think we'll be now making an official appeal to the headquarters because nimesema kizungu yangu yote. There was some live streaming program from the, I think from the police headquarters, not the police headquarters, that the commemoration service that was being led by Prime CS Mudavadi, being a commemoration service for fallen soldiers. So when the YouTube people saw just fallen soldiers, so I think they anticipated that there may be this fire exchange or will there be dead bodies displayed? I don't understand. So they immediately cut the broadcast and said we are broadcasting unaccepted content. So I made an appeal. It's a normal church service. It was commemoration of fallen soldiers. There is nothing unusual about it. They say, okay, they agree with me. They regret the whole thing and all that. So I expected for me to be back on air, but until now, nothing. So naomba tu tafadhali ambia mtu tuko Sound Candy Talk live. Facebook pia imedinda, sasa sijui tutakuaje, lakini tunashukuru. Karibuni kila mmoja, tumakinike tunapoanza kwa fujo tu. Tuko live TikTok, tuko live Facebook, Facebook ni Ngozi M. Bernard, my page, and then of course our sister channel Triumphant Bible Media. You can also get us there on YouTube. So tafadhali share your link na mtu, mkumbushe kwamba show imeanza, na naamini kwamba tutakuwa na wakati mzuri. Leo lazima tumalize masuala ya tujue IEBC ni nini, inafanyanga nini, kwa sababu historia yake sio nzuri. Supreme Court tangu ianze kuja imefanya kazi yake, imesaidiaje ama imeharibu kivipi? Asante sana. So naomba tuanze tu kwa fujo, tafadhali karibisha mtu. 17 people. Let's get our numbers please. Let's get our numbers. Hii show tumetangaza mapema. Mbona kuingia imekuwa tena ni msalaba? Tujitahidi kukaribishana tafadhali. Asante sana. As we take the short break and arrange our panelists. I'm still expecting Bishop will be here, Mama Selina and the other panelists. So karibuni, tumakinike pamoja.
Watu wa Mungu, Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Kipindi cha mahubiri kimerudi tena kwa kishindo kwenye Sound Candy Talk. Tunakufundisha, kukuelimisha na kukutia moyo kwenye Daily Bite. Mafundisho kamili ya Biblia kila siku kwenye runinga uipendayo ya Sound Candy Talk. Tunazunguka kote kote mchana kutwa kukuletea taarifa na matokeo ya habari kutoka pembe zote za ulimwengu. Jioni tunaweka mduara wa kujadili taarifa zizo hizo kwa mapana na marefu. Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki kwenye matukio ya siku, saa 2 jioni kwenye Sound Candy Talk. Matukio ya siku, makao makuu ya habari kuu ya siku.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad you're watching. Thank you so much for making time to join us as we continue with the program IEBC, the mystery behind IEBC and the Supreme Court in Kenya elections. Have they helped anything or they have not? Ay, tumkaribishe Furaha. Hali vipi? Furaha, if you're there. Okay, inaonekana Furaha bado anajipanga. Ayaga, how are you today? Okay, just hold on, ladies and gentlemen, as our panelists get straight. Leo inaonekana ngoma ndio hiyo, lakini nashukuru. Now, on this issue of elections, let me just complete that video we were playing, and then from there we will see what happens.
Indian presidential polls mean for Kenya.
Kenyan president-elect's life growing up is in complete contrast to what it is now. He has always credited his connection to the people from his humble beginnings. A boy from Sambut village who walked barefoot to school and topped the class. But who is William Samoei Ruto? Let's find out. Ruto was born in Kenya's western region in an industrial town called Eldoret. In the late 1980s, Ruto left to study botany and zoology at the University of Nairobi. Friends said they began noticing his focus on politics. In 1997, he challenged Reuben Chesire for the parliamentary seat of the Eldoret North constituency, and he won. He then shot to prominence as a youth organizer for former President Daniel Arap Moi, and eventually becoming one of Kenya's youngest lawmakers and ministers. He has served as Minister for Home Affairs, Agriculture, and Higher Education. He had supported Odinga during hotly disputed elections in 2007, when 1,200 people were killed in the post-election violence that rocked the country then. He and Kenyatta faced charges at the International Criminal Court over the violence. That case later collapsed. Ruto then switched sides and became Kenyatta's deputy president in 2013. But in the long run, the bromance fell out after the 2017 election, when Kenyatta reconciled with Odinga and distanced himself from Ruto. Following yesterday's declaration of Ruto as president-elect, experts predict that Raila Odinga may challenge the results by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. So if he does, this is what will happen. He will have to file a petition challenging the results within 7 days. After being served, the winner will have 4 days to file a response to the petition, and the loser will be given 24 hours to file a rejoinder. The Supreme Court will then be required to convene a pre-trial conference within 8 days from the filing of the petition. The judges will then be required to hear the election dispute petition immediately after the pre-trial conference and proceed to deliver a judgment within 14 days of the filing of the petition. The Supreme Court may annul the elections and call for a rerun. It is still a wait-and-see kind of situation in Kenya.
For more analysis into the election results in Kenya, we are now being joined by Javas Bigambo from Nairobi, Kenya, who is a lawyer and governance expert. Thanks so much for joining us. My first question, now some are of the view that William Ruto's declaration is not legitimate. What does this imply exactly?
Well, I have to look at it then through the legal lenses that Article 138, Article 10 of the Constitution, provides that upon tallying and verification of the results by the Commission, the chairperson of the Commission will declare those results. So the Constitution bestows upon the chair of the Commission the honors of making that declaration. And so with regard to declaration, the absence of the 4 commissioners from enjoining themselves in that declaration does not render the decision invalid. Secondly, it only paints a bad picture about the aspect of collegiality with regard to the leadership of the elections body. Now, the other question that some people are bringing up is about the IEBC Act that speaks to the issue of quorum and congruence of the commissioners in making a decision. Nonetheless, early this year, the Supreme Court of Kenya, while dispensing with the matter or the petition to do with an attempt to amend the constitution under the Building Bridges initiative agreed with the petitioners that the quorum of the IEBC in making a decision is 3 and not 5.
Right.
And so the argument then falls flat, and the legitimacy holds about the declaration of William Ruto as the president-elect of the Republic of Kenya.
Right, just to follow up there, we've obviously seen scenes of protests, scuffles break out since the election results were announced. Was this expected at all? And what is it that the Kenyans want at this point?
Well, I would say that with keenness, the sporadic outburst or sporadic protests was anticipated because of how close this election was. And secondly, because of how hotly contested this election was, and the anxiety that was building up, and the great expectation for the win of Raila Odinga, given the fact that this was his 5th stab, and now was getting the support of government and state machinery that was to his political benefit. So it was highly expected by his supporters that still anxiety, displeasure among the supporters of Raila Odinga. The police swung into action to contain the protesters, and I think it's reasonable to argue that peace and calm has been restored.
Right.
And maybe these protests last evening were just about releasing the pent-up energy and anger and displeasure upon the declaration of William Ruto as the president-elect.
Right, Javas, thank you so much for all those inputs, and thanks for joining us on Beyond World is One at this hour. Beyond World is One is now available in your country.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. We are looking at our elections, and so I know those those clips are not sitting well with everyone of our, majority of us, but we cannot ignore some of these things. We need to relook at them and be able to chart the way forward rightly. I'm happy that we are all here. Ayaga, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. Good to hear you.
I'm good. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Kabisa uko sawa kabisa.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, Furaha, are you back?
Yes, I don't know what was happening, but I'm here. I'm here.
Good. We have gotten you. Thank you so much. So I think we'll let Ayaga go first. Ayaga, IEBC, Supreme Court, our history, our current state of affairs, and the future.
Pia nimesikia umeongea story ya Ghana. You know there is no democracy in Ghana. You know, if you follow the election in Ghana a little bit closely, they are just recycling. You know, Mahama was the former president who was beaten by the Nana Akufo-Addo, the son of Akufo-Addo, who was now the son of a former president. And that's how they have been recycling. So I don't think there is democracy in Ghana. Once somebody is elected, he becomes bad, and then when he becomes bad, the one who was beaten now becomes good, and it seems that the political class has gotten a medicine to manage the nation. So they think it is a democracy. There is no democracy there, because the same problem Mahama was accused why he was defeated last election, corruption and whatever, is the same thing. They are now they are blaming the current administration led by Nana Akufo-Addo, and that's why they couldn't elect the deputy president of, I think he is now the vice president of Ghana, the current Ghana vice president as we speak. So when I come to Kenya, Kenya is also being managed the same way. We may think there is something I always say, that things that never work for Africa is only two: democracy and Christianity. They left us things they have destroyed already. We only believe, we pray, but Christianity is not working for us, because even if you see what happens in our country today, you only ask if this country, you only have churches, not mosque. Why those billions and millions? I've never had mosque. I have any issue with them, or Hindus, or Hindus places of worship. So I wonder why it is only Christians. So coming to the topic for today, the IEBC, it is politics they are playing. This is pure politics. We can't say it is by coincidence or by design or by the job of God that we don't have the IEBC. You remember when the Gen Z were in the street, that was around June. The first thing that the president used to quell them was signing an article report with all media and international media. That happens at the KICC. The military was still on the street, and things were still in chaos. The town was in ruin. And I thought by now we could have the IEBC. The IEBC is not in the place because of one thing, and it is sometimes we need to put things in the perspective. Ukipatia Raila chakula ashibe, hatapiga kelele. Raila ought to have made the noise about the IEBC, because that is the first thing they made in KICC. It was the issue of IEBC, not even appointing some of opposition leaders to government. The IEBC issue was the main reason why the NADCO report was signed, and the second thing was the cost of living. And those are the problems we are facing today. If the ODM is serious, let us push this government, because this is a government that do not hear. I heard them telling churches that, oh, you can advise us in secret. You can call us and utukose. Yani, you advise us of what to do and what to do in secret. This is a government that you cannot advise on a secret. This is a government that hears only one thing: protest and being on the road and being castigated openly. That is what they are reacting.
Sorry, Ayaga, it appears the net has thrown you out, but the point is being made. Well, as we look at it, so it is politics and not necessarily that IEBC is out of joint. I don't know what that means. I will be waiting for Ayaga to come and clarify. Yeah, Fraha. Here we are, the mystery of IEBC, Supreme Court, our elections.
Yes, hello everyone, depending on the time zones. For me, we've said history is important. And if we begin to look at how we have handled our electoral commission, whether it was the time when it was Electoral Commission of Kenya, then it became Interim Independent Election Commission of Kenya, and then now it is the Independent Election Boundaries and Commission. I think there are several issues we still have to consider as Kenyans, because for me, I believe that it is part of the problem, because I think we have not gotten it right yet. Even based on history, we know how it ended with Samuel Kivitu. We know how it ended with the other chairperson, and how it has ended with Chebukati. So we seem to have wanted a correction when we went from the Interim Independent and Election Commission of Kenya and we went to IEBC. When we did our choice of Chebukati, we are aware that there were question marks on his competence, not eligibility. he was eligible, but was he the most competent? That question came up, and it was like he wasn't the best on the list, and yet for some reason we settled on him. So those questions came back to haunt us in terms of why would you choose a candidate who is not the best in that fit? So those are some of the issues that we are struggling with as Electoral Commission. When the election for 2017 was nullified, I believe we were at a position where we needed to make some changes regarding IEBC because of the secretariat, what was happening at that time, and the differences that took place. And we also did not take our chances then. I think we tried to some extent. I remember the collection of the signatures. At some point, they were saying the signatures don't look genuine. Some of them are drawing motor vehicles and I don't know what else. But the other question was, do you have my signature as Joy, so that when I put my signature there, you can say that this is not Joy's signature. What are you checking it against? If you don't have the signatures collected or you don't have a verification system, then you cannot even deny the signature that I have put there. So we have tried, and then for some reason, sometimes we stepped back and we went into the with Chebukati and the commission as it was, believing that we have put balances. I think based on the experience in 2017, where we were checking and we were able to go to Supreme Court in good time with our evidence, we thought the nullification happened, so we thought changes would come. But we didn't take advantage of that moment to ensure that we cannot go to the election with the same commission. And that was the point at which we refused now to go to the repeat election. So I always, I've taken issue with some media personalities. I keep telling them, for me, I don't even believe in having Raila having lost 5 times, because they count the 2017 election, and that one I refer to is that was nullified. Once it is nullified, then it's neither here nor there, and then we didn't go for the repeat election. So in effect, the ones that you can count would be 97, 2002 was Kibaki Tosha, so there was no contestation. Then 2007, then 2013, then 2022. So for 2017, forget about it. It was nullified, and then we didn't do the repeat. So for me, I never count that year as part of alishindwa, because it's neither here nor there. Hakushindwa because that election was nullified, and then he didn't participate in the repeat election. So for the IEBC, I think the biggest fault or the biggest dent on it would be the resignation of Akombe, the death of Msando, and then the consequent resignation of the other 3. After Akombe left, the other 3 who, Akombe, people said she was a coward. Why didn't she stay and fight on? You stay and fight on the backdrop of the death of Msando. These people will get rid of you. Maybe she wouldn't be alive right now. So the other 3 who resigned, Nkatha, I think she was Nkatha Maina, and then Margaret Mwachanya and Paul Kurgat in 2018. They resigned in 2018, I think April. And they cited, let me just confirm, they cited severe deterioration of confidence in the commission chair. These are people who are working with Chebukati. They had no confidence in their chairperson. There is no reason why we should have gone with Chebukati again. And you know that the Cherera 4 also resigned, and their biggest contestation or their biggest reason was that Chebukati was opaque and he didn't involve them in the final stages of vote verification and compilation. So for me, Electoral Commission, I think it has so many issues. So for a start, I will highlight that history and say, I think that is part of our problem, that we do not have an integral Electoral Commission. It is not independent the way it is meant to be. It has a lot of interferences. And if we look at all the incidences, the most recent, which most people will remember, there was a paper there that I don't know where it was from, Chebukati, I think there are people who tried to snatch it, Akina Ledama, so that he doesn't announce it. It wasn't signed. There was no copy for the DP. There was one for Ruto, the one he snatched, if you remember that video. So as Kenyans, I think that is we have to want things that are above board in terms of how our Electoral Commission works. Then later I am going to, that's my initial submission. I have talked about the IEBC, and I will maybe expound on some of the things that we will really, and of course our Supreme Court, which was meant to be our salvation, let's say, because in court, you also look at the process. Just the way they said BBI could not pass because the process was wrong, if there is a dent in the process by IEBC, then our savior should be the Supreme Court, should be able to say, why was this not adding up? Because there was a question there that the Cherera 4 was saying, everything was being signed. At some point it stopped. We went on for days. The Supreme Court, when they were rulings and we were watching them as lay people, some of us, but people who are keen enough to see, some of the questions that they themselves asked, they didn't give answers. And yet when they were ruling, we didn't get answers to what was happening during those times. What was happening? What stopped? There were no satisfactory answers, but still all the other evidences, all the questions, because I think the people who are taken to court also had a duty to be able to clear the air so that everything is satisfactory. So our savior, which is supposed to be the Supreme Court, which was given its mandate by the Constitution, and then later in 2021, the acts that have been subsequent acts that have made it possible for them to have the highest, to be the highest court in the land. I think they've fallen short in terms of, even in 2013, CJ Mutunga, we went there and, in a matter of minutes, held, and then when verification happened and we had the time, you would remember that, Mwilu was attacked and the driver lost their life, and Njokindungu couldn't get to court from somewhere in Kenya. He couldn't get to court, so we only had Lenaola and Maraga, and that's no quorum. We needed a third judge. That's the minimum. So for some reason, we couldn't make a decision that would determine whether we can go for the repeat or not, because people went to court for that and we couldn't have a decision. So you can see it's manipulated so well. And then after that is done, we are like, it's okay. It's okay. We can just live with, accept and move on. Yeah. So that's my initial submission regarding the highest institutions that are supposed to ensure that we have the correct people in leadership. They have faults by themselves, so they're not going to be able to give us the quality that we want. I think that is part of our problem.
Okay, thank you for a good start indeed, and a good rejoinder of the events and the activities that lead towards our election. And I love the casting of the net widely so that we can bring in as much information as possible, then be able to strike a balance of making sure that we relate to this information as personal as possible. Beside the politics that are at play, it appears to me that our election process is such that it has a predetermined outcome, a predetermined outcome that makes sure that the players, that is the IEBC and the Supreme Court, don't have a say if they don't agree with the predetermined outcome. So Kenyans are just taken through the process, but it can come. We are playing football, and then you are about to score, and somebody runs away with a goalpost. Then takes on the other side. He said, "Now score." Then comes and say, "A winner. We already have a winner. We already have a winner. There's no need for continuing with the match." Now, those are some of the frustrations that I see. Just citing one example, kabla tumulete mama. You remember that run up to the 2022 elections, the Kenya Kwanza, Ruto's team, hired 50 lawyers. Okay? Hired 50 lawyers in preparation for the Supreme Court challenge long before the elections took place. I don't know if we noticed that. Now, if you're hiring 50 lawyers, okay, before the election takes place, are you not already past the Supreme Court before the elections are conducted? And if that's the case, this Supreme Court, does it have any reason why it should be there? Because it is already surpassed by reason of people who premeditate what they're going to do, then look for the cure of what they will do, and then how they will present it to look like it was true. And then the Supreme Court will have their hands tied. They have to rule a certain way. And so our country, in my opinion, is not a functioning system. It is actually a system that is set to fail. And if it's not failing, we'll make it fail. Like the proverbial story of a small boy wanted the wise man to get it at least one thing wrong. Okay, so there was the old man who always got everything right. So the boy said, "I want to make sure that at least he gets one thing wrong." So he took an insect in the hand and said, "Old man, is it dead or alive?" Okay, and the boy had arranged, if he says it's alive, I will press it with the finger and then it dies. If he says it's dead, I'm going to release it and say it is alive. At least the old man to get it wrong for the first time. Then is it dead or alive? The old man still saying whether it's dead or alive, it all depends on you. Now, Wakenya, itabidi sasa tuamue. Are we going to get it right by insisting on the right way? Or will let the people who, if it is dead, if it is alive, they will kill it. If it is dead, they will not revive it. They will make sure that if death is the win, they will make it happen. If alive is the win, they will make it happen. And for how long will we have this? So tutaenda in history, I'm expecting Jakindu pia kuwe hapa. Nataka tuende mpaka kwa ile commission ilikuanga ya Chesoni. Kuna wale ambao wakumbuki Chesoni. Ile commission ilikuwa inakuanga wiki kadhaa kabla elections, then inamalizwa, and then I think Chesoni alikuanga anatumiwa kama Chief Justice as well as Electoral Commission Chair. This country has seen many things. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Karibisha mtu tafadhali, usitazame kipindi peke yako. Ndio namba watazamaji endelee kupanda. Anaamini kwamba mbivu na mbiji itajulikana. Kuna watu wanainterfere na broadcast yetu, lakini tutawini tu. Masuala ya utoto sisi tuliachana nayo, hatutaki tena. Mama, karibu, hali vipi?
Asante sana Bernard, nimehangaika najaribu kuingia, nafanya nini na simu, nafikiri kuna kwa mambo mingi, sijui ni unajaribu inatolewa, unajaribu unakikiwa out, but anyway, kulingana na vile mumesema, Supreme Court, nafikiri mtu anasema ipa kura wachie mimi Supreme Court. Kama Supreme Court wangekuwa na uwezo ya kuzuia udanganyaji, hata election haingekuwa inarikiwa penalty, because ungepeleka wapi? So hata hii yetu unasema watu walikuwa already na 50 lawyers. Yes, walikuwa nasema unitangaze tu, Chebukati tangaza mimi, hiyo ingine wachia mimi. Na kweli ukitangazwa na uko na hapa hanuko kotini, what else will you do? So hapo Kenya tuko na kazi. Ya pili, bado nina insist, commissioners are not the problem. The problem is the secretariat. Mahali nyungu iko, mahali inapikwa chakula ya kupika kura, ni ofisi, sio commissioners. Na unasikia commissioners wanakuwa under the chairmanship, but chairman ako na ofisi mzima. So the secretary general ama wanaitwa nini, yeye ndiye ana lead commission. Then we have commissioners. Kasi ya commissioners ni kidogo juu hawainterfere na mambo ya files. So if you can have a bad commissioner chairman kama Chebukati anashikana na secretary general, alafu wanafanya mambo, commissioners wanatumwa tu, wanaambiwa hey, endeni Dubai, hey, endeni mahali sabuni sijui ilitengenezwa. Hata wakifika hapo they don't have any access. Kazi yao ni kwenda kuangalia ikiwa packed. Bernard, ukiniambia enda Dubai na mimi napika huko sijui ilitengenezea wapi, sijui ni ngapi, na ndiye sababu I'm still asking. Sile silikuwa simeprintiwa table, silienda wapi? And why? Kwa nini uniambie kunaweza tokea shida uprint makaratasi ya kukuja kufanya nini? And remember I told you one time, wakati ya Piwat, wakati tulikuwa na election ya Kenya, tulikuwa na 2 printing machines. Piwat akikuja anapata china ya delegate yote iko intact. Akiondoka hiyo yake inawekwa kando, kuna hii ingine imekuja imefanya kazi. And that time Ruto was organizing, alikuwa ni director of election. He has been director of election before. So mimi kwangu kama tunataka mambo ya nimeona Kalonzo akiwa mkali, sijui mkali ya nini. Tukitaka kufanya vizuri, wacha kwanza tutengeneze ofisi ya IEBC na Cherera 4 warudi. Kuna wenye waliwachia wanajua, and then Marian and the group, we change all of them na tuende kwa counties. Kuna wale ama tusikuwe na permanent officer ya county, wacha tu employ wakati election inafika, anakuja hapo ana prepare, election ikiisha wanafunga wanaenda. So why this person is there for 5 years, anakula pesa yetu mshahara na hakuna kitu anafanya, na election iliisha na walisaidia kurika election. So the best thing Bernard, wacha tusikuwe na permanent what we call officers in counties chenye wafanyi kitu, wanasaidiana na Marian kuipa kura. That is for me. The commissioners, we already have them. Let them come, watuambie wanajua. And once you are bitten by a snake, huwezi repeat. So tukuwe na hao waine, alafu sasa tuwe na time ya kuleta hao wengine watatu. Alafu Marian anakaa kwa hiyo ofisi mpaka aende retire or what is happening. We need to know the structure of IEBC. Wanaserve aje? Wako na 10 year term, wako nini, wanafanya kazi aje? Ni wafanyikazi tu kama wale wengine, huwezi kumkusa. Hata election ikirikiwa akiwa ndani, he will continue and is the same rika. We want to know what is going on. We really want to know what is going on in IEBC. Kama wa Kenya, tusitanganywe na mambo ya commissioners. Tunataka ile nyungu iko huko ndani. Who are these people? Marian, the Secretary General, anafanya nini? We need those people. Na wakati ya kuandika hiyo sabuni ama ya kufanya hiyo tenda, nani wanakuwa ndani? Who are these people? Kuna watu wanaitwa out of commission, waende wakae chini. Kama hakuna, tutataka kuanza kusema, as the political parties, we need to know, tuwe na mkutano. Nakumbuka walisema, tuliita Raila, sijui tukaita nani wako kuja. This time round, we don't want that. Kabla tolewa tenda, we need serious people to sit down. Tuangalie sisi wote. Huu mtu ameshinda tenda ni nani? Aliweka pesa ngapi? Alikuwa namba ngapi? Amechunguzwa, amefanya kazi gani? And then when we are ready to go for election, si pora uchaguzi, tunataka uchaguzi pora. We better even don't go to election in 2027, but we make sure tumetengeneza kitu hatutalia. Nikichakuliwa kama MCA, nikikushinda na 10 votes, election yetu hata ikiangaliwa mara 100, itasema Selina win on only 10 votes. Ya president hata kama alishinda na 200 votes, tunataka iwe ni haki, imetoka every constituency, na kweli umepita na kura 1,000 ama hata 20,000. It is enough to be a win, but for now tunataka kwanza hii nyumba tujue, hii nyoka iko kwa hii IEBC penat ni watu ngapi? Is that IEBC only Marian? Akona ofisi hiyo penat, utusaidie kwanza, uende uchunguze. We need to know. Thank you.
Sawa, Mami. Thank you. A good start indeed. Pertinent questions that we must get answers to. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's be active to invite each other. We are not streaming on Sound Candy Talk main channel. We still have got challenge. So please help the people to locate us. We are on Sound Candy Talk Live, our backup channel. That's on YouTube, as well as Triumphant Bible Media. We are live on the same. Facebook, tunapatikana kwa Ngozi M. Bernard page. TikTok, Sound Candy Talk as usual. Na tuko hapa leo tunaangazia masuala ya IEBC na Supreme Court. Tunataka kujua mbivu na mbichi. Mama hapa anazungumza kuhusu CEO wa Secretariat ya IEBC. Hiyo inakuanga permanent ama iko na term limit, na wao wanahusika na nini? Hili sio swali ambalo ni geni, kwa sababu mambo mengi ambayo yamesababisha maafa mengi tu kwa nchi hii inatokana na hiyo. Mojawapo ya sababu ya Raila Odinga kukataa kurejelea uchaguzi wa 2017, alisema wale watu ambao walisababisha kura kuibwa wakati wako bao ndio bado wako kwa ofisi. Sasa tutarudi huko, itakuwaje if they are the same people who rigged the election? Yeah, we are going back to them for them to conduct another election without any substantial changes in the staff and in the management of the IEBC. And so I believe as a people, we must begin to ask these questions early enough so that Kenyans understand, kwa sababu wengi tuko tu tayari kwenda kuprotest, na kuprotest iko sawa, iko kwa katiba na kila kitu, lakini tutaprotest mpaka lini? Are we going to be laying ground for crimes to be committed because we have protesters who will always protest? Is that how to have a progressive country? Well, we go back to Ayaga. Ayaga, sorry for the net, lakini tuendelee. So utajibu hilo swali la mama, hii secretariat ya IEBC. Huyu anaitwa nani? Marijuana. Zivite marijuana. Akona term limit ama kuna nini? Karibu.
Asante sana. I think kuna hii Kenya tumeanza kuchezewa na kwa mtandao. I don't think my net iko tu sawa kwa YouTube na watch, lakini nikijaribu kuingia naona naingia natoka. Nikijaribu ina shida. Hapo pia hiyo ndio dhambi tena ile kubwa.
Kuna wale maasimu wetu wanafanya hizo vituko. The disgruntled guys concentrating on their show, they want this one not to have people on the panel. Mimi nashindwa utoto hii.
Pepo mbaya washindwe shetani ya Mungu. Pepo mbaya washindwe kabisa, tuko na Bishop hapa atatuombea. Secretariat of IEBC is said by the CEO, and those are the permanent members of the IEBC. So I don't think they have their term. The commissioners have their, is a contract. I think it is 3 years. Then after that you can renew, and it can only be renewed once. So that's why we can't have another Chebukati now at the IEBC, because he served the first term and they renewed the term, and now he can't. It is like now the presidency or the governorship. But the CEO can be there as long as the political temperature or the political will allows him to be there. So I think what these people are doing, it is not by Jove of God. That is what I'm saying. And it is not by coincidence. And it is not by design that they are delaying the constitute IEBC. I think the government side is very keen on derailing, because there is a lot of dissent. You know, the moment we have an IEBC, as we speak, we have like 3 constituencies and 11 wards that need a by-election. And when the election is held as we speak now, the government side will lose it badly. And that is not good for them. And I think they have been advised enough by the NIS and the intelligence that at least for now ensure that there is no by-election. If people heckle the president left, right, and center, and a by-election is held maybe in a certain constituency, and then the president lose 3 or 4, he will fear going to the 3rd one. And that is a very bad indication to any sitting government that want a re-election. So I think the government side is doing this by design, and they know what they are doing, and then they want to throw this country into a constitutional crisis so that they can postpone the election. Because what is the constitution saying? That the review of the boundary and delimitation of Kenyan's electoral boundary is done after every 10 years. Remember, it ought to have been done before last year's election. Now it has lapsed its time, and we need to review our political electoral boundaries before we say anything about the next general election. There is no way we will go to the election of 2027 minus boundary review, electoral boundary review. So this they are doing, either to buy time. You know, we will, if you constitute IBC by next year, for them to be in the office, they will do that work around by next year. I mean, next year is now the year 2026, because if you have an IBC by March next year or by May next year, for them to be in the office and start preparing and working on ABCD and the by-election that awaits them, because they will get a workload that is already compiled there, yeah, they will have a lot of work. So immediately they will be there, there will be no review of boundary. So I think by December next year, and that may delay our election, and the government is doing it. So that's where we need to be very careful, because a justice delayed is a justice denied. So these people, they want to rig the election as early as possible. And the reason why they are insisting of the panel have the issues, the panel has no issues. The issues were that some political parties that are parliamentary, they were not involved in the selection of the panel. That is something that can take 2 hours, so that you allow them to name the members. What Kalonzo said, they can name their members in like 30 minutes or give whatever they want to give. But it's the government that is sponsoring court cases through through courts by some individual, because these people are individual, not Kenyans. So we need the IBC as early as yesterday. We are going to have a constitutional crisis, and that's why you see the people like Lena Holla, they are starting crying foul, because that dead kank thing will be placed on their head, and it will be very hard. I think that is my word for now. I'm here, I'm still around.
Okay, asante sana Yaga. Good one indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, as we continue to ventilate, give your views on the comment section, or otherwise, the link to use to get in the studio is available in the comment section. You can also join the panel and be able to give your sense on these issues. So this is politics being played. Government is disadvantaged, and it wants to create a crisis so that maybe through the crisis, they may find their salvation. Interesting. Nimeambiwa kwamba kwa ground mambo ni moto. Hata wale wameenda party haiishi vizuri, wananchi wamechemka. So can they conduct a successful by-election in that environment? I'm beginning to get the picture. Now, appreciate everybody. Please tukue mstari wa mbele kukaribishana. Namba ya watazamaji ipande. Share the link widely. And then, of course, kumbusha mtu kwamba tuko Sound Candy Talk live. That is where we are streaming. Thank you so much. Nimlete sasa Bishop naye tufungulie utangulizi wake, alafu tutarudi kwa furaha. Bishop, are you set? Unmute, your mic is off.
I am here. Good morning and good evening, everyone who is on this candid Sound Talk. I am Silas Kanali, Bishop of Lifegate Churches, and interested in the issues that happens in our country, and especially now. And I know that we'll have a very healthy talk with the views from all over, and share how we look at things and what can be done. Asanteni kwa kunikaribisha.
Okay, thank you. We will love you to give us a brief overview. You've been here long enough to let us know our Electoral Commission. Is it put there to conduct elections or to smoke screeners while the elections are being conducted elsewhere? Because from as back as the time for Chesoni, we had Kibuitu, we had Isaac Hassan, we had Chebukati. None of them has delivered elections except the 2002 and the referendum of 2005. and 2010. The rest have been trouble.
The Electoral Commission seems not to know what their mandate is. And they seem, if I may use that word loosely, they seem to serve their masters' interests and not to serve the country. And so they are handpicked and set there with an intention to fulfill certain desires. And that is why we have had problems. If they were there to do justice, if they were there to serve Kenyans, if they were there to give us clear, candid report, then we will not be having the crisis we have. Right now, the government and the cohorts are confused because they are trying to look around to see who is this suited person who can act at their call. And that's why we have a problem. So in a nutshell, I would say the Electoral Commission has not done us justice.
So, sir, thank you. A good place to start. Has not done us justice. Let me not ask if there is any hope for justice in the future. We'll come back to you. Let's go back to Fraha Kwanza, give us part. And then I also want us to combine with Supreme Court, because I've been on the kind of Supreme Court is if the Electoral Commission is a flower girl, I think Supreme Court is the part, anaitwanga matron, ile mama wa kutembeza watoto kwa harusi. Fraha, if you are set.
Yeah, so we are at a place where we are thinking, we believe that our Electoral Commission has let us down. And I think the core, because you see what happens, the commissioners, just the way Mama said, it's the secretariat that is the backbone of the commission. They're the ones who are there like permanent staff. And currently it's Marjan. And before that, it was this guy who went to the CAK. So if you remember, Marjan, in terms of being asked about the preparations for these elections for 2022, there was so much that was not in place. There was so much that was questionable. I recall that interview that Abdi Kadir had with him. And you would recall how the ballot papers, how the commissioners were not aware of some of the procurements that were being done. Our very own able speaker, Wetangula, was involved at one point in going to oversee some of the procurements that were in place. So it seems that the chair, the delay right now is to look for somebody of the caliber of Chebukati, somebody who can be compromised. They have to find that person. They have to find this person who is also going to work with the secretariat in order to compromise the elections. So that delay is there to be able to find the right people who can serve the purpose for which this government wants. So I believe that these are the, if the NADCO report is anything to go by, because it was, we can say it was a product of an agitation, the mandamanos that we did, in order, we couldn't go on because now the killings were there. And okay, let's give it the benefit of doubt that, on the backdrop of the deaths, we couldn't go back to the street and have people killed if we don't have a new strategy. So if the NADCO report has IEBC, as one of the issues that are supposed to be corrected, I think the earlier the better, the way the panelists are saying. If we take too long, we will end up with a situation like, the one for Chebukati, where now the timelines could not allow us to make the necessary changes in time for them to be able to render a credible election. So we decried the amount of time, and we ended up with we didn't end up with a credible election. We still ended up with a fraudulent election. So the timelines are not in our favor if we continue to sit back and not push in terms of for the IEBC to be able to be in place correctly, so that we can check, we can verify the people who are there, so that we don't end up with the caliber of people that we had, where we are saying this wasn't the most qualified. If you have enough time, you can say, no, let's redo the process. But if you don't have enough time, then you're forced to go with whatever you have. And that is something that maybe as a forum that has discussions like this, we can see who or where do we need to push, where do we need to touch in order for this process of IEBC, the agitation for it, just now that the rallying call has started with no less than Lenaola, who is a Supreme Court judge. I think this is the moment we can use to be able to try and make this push hard, so that we can start having this commission in place. We can start having it work on the pending processes, the by-elections that are there, so that we are even able to see if it's capable, the people we've put in place, if they are capable. Now, to go to the Supreme Court, that's another tricky place. We have men of repute, men and women of repute there. We've had the previous ones who, so far, I think it's Maraga who has stood out. Willy Mutunga was a good choice, in my opinion. I thought, based on his history and his activism, I thought he would, take this baby, the 2010 Constitution, to a very formidable place where now we can rely on it to be able to help us out when we are stuck on these matters, especially our election, because that's where everything else starts. If we don't have the right people at the helm of the leadership of the country, then it trickles down to other areas and we have shortfalls. But now, Supreme Court, it has powers, and it's supposed to confer, it has powers that are conferred to it to be able to exercise diverse jurisdiction. So now, including exclusive original jurisdiction, and also setting up rich jurisprudence. For example, that 2017 nullification, we were talking about, it has never happened in the world, but now it is going to be used as a precedent in other jurisdictions, where they can say, in Kenya, when this and this happened, the election was nullified. So here we are talking about two issues. The core problem of IEBC is that secretariat, because even as we speak, I think IEBC has like over 300. When I checked, I saw that it has like over 300 staff, because all the people who work during election, and now the core staff at the commission. So as Mama Selena has said, when we are going to make these changes, we look at the secretariat more than even the commissioners. That's one thing. Then when we come to the Supreme Court, I don't know how we are going to make the Supreme Court work for us, because it is supposed to assert the supremacy of the Constitution and the sovereignty of the people of Kenya. But you get the impression that it's not keen to assert our sovereignty. It is keen to assert to serve the whims of whoever it is that is, I don't know whether it's the highest bidder. I don't know if there's pressure not to stand firm. I don't know if people are afraid of their lives, because you remember that came up in the nullification. So are these people too afraid to assert themselves in terms of what is right for the country as opposed to what is right for the individual that is going to come in? So that, I think, is where our biggest problem is, because so far, I think the Supreme Court has not served us well, because you look at all the issues that are raised and you see how they handle it. Even the language itself, okay, people were like, okay, we accept that you have found that our evidence is insufficient. It is, but is diminishing, and you're diminishing the sovereign people. We are above them. They are Supreme Court. We are sovereign. So we've given them a mandate, but we are still the bosses. And I think Supreme Court is not serving us in that manner, where you find that they're not paying regard to the circumstances, the history, and the culture of the people. Some of the things that they need to put into mind when they are trying to provide authoritative and impartial interpretation of the Constitution, but they don't do it. So that's where we are supposed to, that's our final stop. But our final stop has dents. It's not standing up to the level of integrity that we want. So I don't know how, because IEBC, maybe we can push in the process of when they are choosing and verifying these people. But now with the Supreme Court, they have security of tenure. So I don't know how we can, as the sovereign people, task the Supreme Court to be able to serve as the way we really want them to do. That we feel that they did something wrong, but you see, we are saying that their word is final. So if it is final, where else do we go? Because we go into the streets and, the ruling elite make it impossible for us to sustain it, or we haven't come in the numbers, or we haven't exercised our sovereignty enough for them to realize the bosses are angry, so angry that if we joke or if we play, this country is going to the dogs, and it's not like the Supreme Court, they are going to be shielded when everything turns over. So I feel that there's a momentum that is building, that if we take advantage of it, people will realize that, as much as we are trying to safeguard our positions, secure our power and our future, there's a whole team of Kenyans who are very angry, and it's building to the point that if we are not standing on the right side of history, we will just be swept away with the wave. I think if we sustain this, it will come to that. Yes, Bernard.
All right. Thank you for a good one indeed. And I think as a country, we have a long way to go in terms of putting up institutions and making those institutions do the reason why they are put up. At times, I feel like we put up institutions to get for people jobs. Not like you just want to be a Supreme Court judge, but you don't realize that being a Supreme Court judge means you're supposed to safeguard the country's interest, not even look at the case. The case is trivial. The real issue is the country. This decision I am making, how will it serve this country? so that when you're making there's a difference between when you make a decision on which suit to wear, because that's personal, okay? It's different when you're making a decision about the suit you wear and the food you cook in the kitchen that everybody will eat. If it's the food that involves everybody, great care has to be taken. But I feel like we mix many things. There is something in Jeremani. Jeremani is one of us here. He will be here with later on, not today. He sent me something about IEBC that I would love to read before Mama comes, and then we have Bishop Lawi Njeremani. He says, on IEBC, my view is that we need to disband it and reconstitute two separate bodies, Boundaries Commission and Electoral Commission. The reconstituted Electoral Commission should use paperless and digital as a priority, in my view, if it's possible to spend less than 3 billion for general elections. Now, I kind of agree. Why did we put an Electoral Commission and boundaries in one commission? Because if we are the ones presiding the election, then we are the ones drawing the boundaries, which constituents goes up to where, which constituents goes up to where. Are we not going to be biased, or are we not going to be influenced that since we don't like Butere constituency being big, we are going to slash on Huisero constituency so that we can deprive this man from getting this amount of votes? So it looks like our country is in a mess because we make the mess, not that things fall apart. Mama, peana maoni yako kwa kifupi tukisonganga.
Yes, Bernard. My question first is, ni lazima tuwe na Supreme Court kwa sababu tangu itengenezwe isipokuwa ile ya Maraga, they have let us down. Kura inaibiwa, wanaenda kustamp, kusema final, umeenda pinguni, hakuna kurudi nyuma. You don't have any other way. Ukipita hiyo yao, unafungwa. So why do we have that body? Hawajafanya justice to Kenyans. They have never even delivered. Ukiongozea hiyo yote, kwa sababu si mmoja kutoka, you say to V2, before Chesoni, before all these people. Only Maraka did at least what he had to say. But na yeye Maraka, pia Raila akasema, he did not want a Secretary General of IEBC. Alitoa shida, he did not blame on anybody. He said commission to go and sit down. Without saying, the person ula alikuwa amefanya makosa, a step aside. So that we can take the deputy, or we can pick a new secretary, whatever, wenye walikuwa nafanya hiyo kazi. So he did a good job, but pia hii katiba ya Kenya nasikia kuna mahali anakuleta, ukifikiria umeingia ndani anakuacha. So anataka ati wasomi wakuje interpret. Wale wasomi wanakuja kuti-interpretia wamekuwa wamefavor one side. So we really want Penat, we go back to we need the Supreme Court. And why do we need it? Siwache makesi yetu tumalizie High Court tuko mahali tumetoka, kwa sababu High Court na raia iko karibu. Sasa hii ya Supreme na watu sapa, Mungu sapa, wala wanakuja kutuua wa Kenya. We don't need them. We don't need them. Kama hawezi saidia wananchi, or even they cannot come out now, vile wanaona wa Kenya wanalia, they not a problem. Ni wasomi inasemekana hawa ni mwisho ya wale wamesoma kushinda wale wengine. Then kwa nini wasituokoe? So I think the picketing alituambia tuende tufanye picketing ama in hashtag ya laola china hata ni mzuri ni tuseme watoke. Hashtag we remove them in office. We don't need that office. Martha Koome, hot air. We don't need an hot air in the Supreme Court. We wanted some good people to save the country. Na kwa sababu wanajua wakikuweka tu, hata kama ulikuwa number 10, hata ufanye nini, where will you go? Tunaambiwa hiyo ni koti ya mwisho. So Bernard, as tunalia tutengeneze IEBC, tulie tutoe Supreme Court, hata tukilete Penat Wasuri ngapi, they will be corrupt. We don't need that Supreme Court. And I don't know how do we go. Are we going for a referendum? Where are we petitioning? We need something. We need Kenyans. We need to wake up. Otherwise, tutakuwa na Supreme Court ya Museveni yenye inamuipianga kura tu. Wanajeshi wanaenda pika kura. Supreme Court chache ya Uganda ni kutangaza tu, hata hakuna haja kwenda election. Anakuja tu anasema Museveni amepita, because you don't have anywhere else to go. Yetu itafika ati leader of opposition wanafungiwa ndani, bado tuna hiyo party, but we are going there. Wamecapture army, wanacapture police, wanacapture ile Supreme Court, wanacapture everything. Now itakuwa ni fanya. So for me, I think we don't need it. Wacha waende. Hii watu saba tangu wamekuja 2010 constitution, hatujafaidika. Hiyo ya Maraka na batu ya Maraka tulipaki na shida. So thank you, Bernard. No, yes,
so,
hiyo ndio ilikuwa. Ya IEBC watoke. Thank you.
Okay, asante mami. That's clear enough, and a serious matter that we need to consider. The history of the Supreme Court, mtaelezewa hapa labda na Bishop, but the backdrop, that's why Ayaga pia atazungumzia hii. I have a problem with the 2010 constitution in the sense that the framers of the constitutions did a lot of responding to Moi than establish a rule of law that will systematically govern the country. For example, this issue of deputy president. They say that he should be running mate so that he should not be sacked the way Moi used to sack vice presidents. Okay? Now, this issue of Supreme Court is as a result of umesema twende High Court. Unajua kesi ya High Court inaweza chukua miaka 70. So, Moi ulikuwa unapeleka yeye kotini, anaendelea kuwa rais, kesi ikiendelea. Na kesi inaweza kuendelea miaka 5 hivi. So ndio wakaleta hii Supreme Court. He decided hii case in 14 days. Because that was another way of frustrating people to challenge the presidential election. So there was a lot of responding to some things than establishing a proper, well thought out system that governs. Nani hapa anasema, Eric anasema, just a moment, narudi kwako Bishop, anasema, Bernard, you have a good view of IEBC, but separating the two bodies, you mean more broad-based corruption. It is not broad-based corruption. It is specialization. One of the reasons why our parliament is not giving us good laws is this clustering of things together and taking one vote. Okay? The Electoral Commission should just focus on elections. Story ya boundaries iwekwe kando. Like Ministry of Planning and National Development, hiyo ndio inafanyanga census. Okay? So let that deal with that. Wakishafanya census, wafanye nao boundaries according to their census result. See, boundaries are supposed to put according to population. So after they do the population data, Then now they do the boundaries. Then those boundaries now are handed over to IEBC to go and to conduct elections. You cannot say that because you are an examination body, you should also build the classrooms because the exams is done in classrooms. Let the classrooms be done by the builders, the students to be in class be handled by teachers, but examiners to come and examine the students. So specialization at times, it helps. This mixing of different roles at the same time is part of the problem. Now, like IBC right now, haijafanya hiyo boundaries. Kwa nini? Ati hawana commissioners. Okay? Wamechelewa 10 years. They are creating a crisis, and that crisis seems not to be going away, because even in the NADCO report, where they were now to review that year's stock, 15, was it 15 number 20? Tena hiyo report iko na shida yake. So kwangu mimi naona nchi hii inapaswa kukombolewa kutokana na hii crafting law to suit an individual other than run the country. We are so much caught up into let's stop this, let's stop who to stop who to stop who, until we don't make laws that govern the country. We make laws that stop specific people not to get into power, frustrate specific people not to get their way. We make laws that are biased and unfounded. Saa ingine inakaa kana kwamba we don't think. Si tumeambiwa tu, as many of the opinions say I. What did you say I to? I don't know, but I is better than nay. Something needs to happen to us as a people. Asante sana. Tunarejea kwa Bishop. Bishop, wende umekuja na ukasema atujapata justice. Is there hope for justice?
You know, someone said that justice is for the elite to have their way while the rest of the people to have their say. And that seems to be the interpretation of justice in our country. It is not the fairness. But to begin with, I must appreciate what that gentleman, Lawi Jeremani, has put across, the separation of these two bodies. That is a very brilliant idea to me, because they deal with separate things, and we have enough people in Kenya to do the job. There is no need of bundling a lot of work in one body because of political interests. But away from that, Mama, national unity has made me laugh. The 7 gods. 7 gods in Supreme Court.
Yes, please, you are the bishop here now. Defend the 7 gods.
7 gods of the Supreme Court. That was interesting. Anyway, you see, if the Supreme Court did their job without favor, then we will have a very good country. However, the Supreme Court has become a legal theater where there is a lot of entertainment for this very reason. Number one is because the decision is already predetermined. Even as you go through the theatrics of who did what, and the lawyers are entertaining us, we're seeing their brilliance in language and understanding of law, but the decision has already been made. It's already predetermined. So they let you just entertain the public, entertain the aggrieved, entertain, and then at the end of it all, you don't get the justice required. Secondly, the Supreme Court seems to condone impunity. They don't care who is right and who is wrong. They're just there to see you do and say what you want to say, waiting for the day to declare the already determined results. And thirdly, the Supreme Court seems to me, in my opinion, that the judges you see are not the judges. The judges are other unseen people who are not even trained in law, who decides what happens to the Kenyan populace, who decides what will happen to that case, who decides by one call which direction the nation should go. And this has been a letdown to us. If we had a few people like Maraga, Maraga was a lonely voice, but he tried. At least he tried. He was firm. He tried. He suffered for it, but he tried. If we had such like people, which we have, but they can never be chosen by the powers that be to the Supreme Court. They can never be put there because they will not dance to the music of the political class. And that has been our problem. And so we must take the option of picketing. That is the option. And that is the major option. It's expensive, but that is the only way the common Mwananchi's voice can be heard. That is the only way the grievances of the Mwananchi can be expressed. Expensive, but worthy it. And that is how our Constitution gives us the power to air and demonstrate our grievances, not any other way. Because the courts have been gagged, the IEBC in the pocket, and we seem not to have any other hope except the street hope. Bernard.
Okay, thank you, Bishop. We appreciate that. So the place to go and vent when everywhere is closed is the street, and the cost thereof must be accepted by Kenyans in terms of the frustrations and the high-handedness of the instruments of violence. But as a people, I think we have an opportunity to correct the wrongs in the country by insisting on the correct rule of law, because what I see here is not necessarily lack of laws. That's another problem we have. Every time there is something we want to go and create a law, we go and enact a law. We don't have a lack of laws. What we have is enforcement of laws in a proper way that everybody is served by what the law requires. Like what Mama talked about, Maraga gave a monumental ruling, nullified the elections, but exonerated Chebukati, exonerated Chiloba, exonerated all these people. So what was the use of nullifying an election? If they bungled the election, the evidence pointed in the same, then they should be punished for it. What were the consequences? So no consequences, then they repeated the same thing because, you know, they will not do me anything. And that is why even 5 years later, Chebukati did the same thing because there are no consequences. So why should we have a law that somebody breaks with impunity, then he suffers no punishment, he is even rewarded for breaking that law and making a leadership get into office that has run the country down, and we are now looking for another constitute IEBC, so that we overlook all these things? No. Something must happen to us as a people, and we begin to demand that if we don't have correct systems, let's get those systems fast. And those systems need to have consequences. If you don't follow due process, uwe mshahara wako, mali yako, na kila kitu yako ichukuliwe. So that mtu akiassume hiyo office ajue kwamba is in this office on behalf of Kenyans, not for himself and the so-called elite. Well, as we proceed, ladies and gentlemen, please hakikisha kwamba unakaribisha mtu maoni yako muhimu, alafu husika moja kwa moja kwa kipindi. Masaa yanaendelea kukatika, usingoje dakika ya mwisho ndio ukuje. So kina Jakindu Bay, kina Lala, muwai mapema tafadhali. Masuala ya kuja extend kipindi hiyo tulifungia. So naomba tafadhali usiseme tumekufungia nje. Wai mapema, utapewa nafasi ya kusema maoni yako. Back to Ayaga. Kwa hiyo swala ya Supreme Court na naitwa nani, the Maraga ruling, don't forget there is the Mutunga ruling of 2013 and all that. Is the Supreme Court the matron as the IEBC is the flower girl and we are all treated to a ceremony, no serious consideration of law, or what's wrong with us?
Thank you very much for that wonderful question. I think number one thing that I can say that Supreme Court was created by the 2010 Constitution to interpret the Constitution. For mostly, majorly, Constitution will go to Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution. And the presidential election petition, which has a time limit. Little did we know, that the politics will become part and parcel of this highest court of the land, because we never anticipated where a Supreme Court judge can be persuaded and to be on a political side. We thought we are going to create an independent judiciary that actually can interpret. But whatever has happened, apart from the Maraga ruling, the other rulings I have seen, it is instigated politically. They are making those rulings politically, because you can't tell me that in a bench of 6, all 6 judges reasons the same, unless we are in class 2, where we used to sing chorus.
7 gods. There are 7 gods, don't forget. 7.
Or there are 7. Yeah, where 7 individuals makes anonymous ruling. Yeah. We need a ruling where we say 2 are against, like the Maraga time, yeah? 2 are against, or 5 is for. It gives you that the CJ at least gave each individual judge time and everything to make its own ruling. But when you see the likes of Mutunga comes with a certain paper, takes 20 minutes and say, for us, we unanimously make this decision, and then there is no even descending, then you wonder why there are 7. We can only have 1 judge there. So whatever that 1 judge say, then we say it is over. So I think that's where our problem number 1 is. Our problem number 2 is culture. We copy pasted the Constitution of the United States of America because we thought we had a problem with the independent Constitution. We never even have a problem with Moi. You know what Moi did? Moi mostly worked within the frame of the Constitution. Even when Moi declared Kenya to be a one-party state, it was a constitution. When he repealed when he removed the Section 2A, it was constitutional according to that constitution. That's why sometimes when we blame Moi, we have to go back to that constitution at least read it. And the lawyers went through it. They end up that Moi never did anything. Moi just used members of parliament to pass a bill for him, and then he used whatever, even the detention without trial was there because that constitution was meant the whites, the minority whites. It favors the minority whites, not the black people. So that is what happens. But this one actually cure so many things. Yeah, that's where I'm talking about our culture. You know, we are Africans, and there are things that we have to do as Africans, and we will never change. We can't change our DNA. That can't be changed. We are Africans. In Africa, there is nothing like democracy. It's not working for us. As much as we are trying and talking about it, it is useless. It is only the other day I asked somebody who is the minister, who is the chairman of Electoral Commission in United States, and then they told me they don't have Electoral Commission. Those things are done by media. Then I ask myself, wow, those are the people who come here to complain when our medias are making this and defending people like Chebukati. So these people, they love when Africans fight. They love when Africans are in disarray. They love when Africans are disagreeing in nonsense things. When in their own culture, they know that nothing like democracy, what works is the institutions. The media is an institution in the United States. You remember the previous election that Donald Trump lost. Donald Trump could make a statement and media do a fact check and say, Mr. President, you are lying. This is not true. Because that media play a key role. That institution, we don't say the head of media. You know, in Africa, it is head of everything. Judiciary, we blame justice. We don't even blame judges. If anything goes wrong, those people are 7. We only blame one person because it is the head of judiciary. We have head of what? But in United States, there are institutions. You can't even know who is Chief Justice in United States. But the judiciary, when they are making a decision, they are making a decision that is good for that country. They rule even against the president, a sitting president. But in Africa, we are told, you know, Chief Justice is the head of judiciary, is being elected. Now, those are the cultures that we are trying to bring into ourselves and are not working for us. The problem is not even the constitution. The problem is the culture of Africa. What is our culture? What are we used to? What is our DNA? If that DNA were never changed by the colonial power all those many years they ruled us, it will not change by the black neo-colonizers that are used by the same blacks, by the same whites to rule the current blacks. So we need to change our culture, and we need to actually find a system that is working for us. Look at the African countries that they are calling democratic, like Ghana. Ghana is a recycling. South Africa, there is no democracy in South Africa. South Africa is about party. Yeah, they have never tested anything like democracy. It is ANC. If you are not a member of ANC, you can't be a president in that country. It will even take 40, 50 years. Even if they lose the majority, they will still manipulate their ways into a political marriages after election, and they will still be there. You see? So it is not working for us. Let us look for, at least Africans should sit down and look for a system that maybe their forefathers used to make them, because Africa, our cultures are different, but they used to be together. They used to trade together. And why should we disagree now that we have so-called the modern and the political? The modern and whatever, all these things, we are being given something, a medicine that is not treating our disease. It is something that increases our disease. And we think that is the good way to go. Because everything, we think that what white man does is what is good for human beings everywhere in the world. And I always opine here that look at the Arab countries that went back into their ancestral kind of ruling, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like UAE. Those countries are growing. Why? because they went to kingship. The issues of election are very few. Yeah, election competition and infight in government is very few. So those countries have too much time to work. If that is something that can work for us in Africa, let us go back there and work. A country that is ruled by a good dictatorship, a good dictator, even if I may have a problem with the dictatorship, like Paul Kagame he has stabilized Rwanda, and that is the fact. What Rwanda is doing, a country we call ourselves a democratic country where we can even remove a deputy president from his office, we are not doing. And I also saw with this administration, as I finish, with this administration, I saw people like Murkomen asking us why, you know, we compare William Ruto with Moi. We only compare William Ruto with Moi because whatever he's doing is still reasoning like Moi. Moi had that constitution and he was working within the framework of that constitution. The Ruto now is in, Ruto is fighting, number one, with the constitutional itself, not even Kenyans. Even if you remove all Kenyans from this country and leave William Ruto alone and his sycophants and give him time, he will still have a constitution to fight, to wrestle with. He will fight with the constitution to dawn. Either the constitution will bring him down or he will bring the constitution down. One will bring each other's down. One must fight and bring the other down. So number one thing Ruto is in constitution, is in a fight with, is the constitution we have. He never believed in it. He is anti it. He will never believe in it because you post it from the word go. It is like a child. If you have a woman today and your wife becomes pregnant, and then from the conception, a wife comes home with a piece of paper and tell you, you know what, I am pregnant, and then you say baby is not mine. And then after 2 years or 4 years after birth, you start saying, baby is mine. You will reject that baby until he is a grown-up man, and even till the baby is dead, you will never accept. You may assume to fool people, but you will never accept that baby because it is a kid you deny at the time of conception, and that is the very vulnerable state, to deny a kid that cannot even breathe, has no teeth, has nothing. So once he's growing and you see the baby he doesn't look like you, but is a very brilliant and a sharp baby, you will still deny and ensure that you block and you stagnate that kid. That is what William Ruto is doing today, is fighting. That's why everything is doing like abduction. I saw Kithure Kindiki today. He's saying, the IEBC is not in place because government cannot go against the court order because something that we have a court injunction. They have been doing abductions here, left, right, and center against the court order. Is that not a court order? Or there are some court orders that are more special than the other? You are fighting the constitution. They were talking about Adani. After the court tried and blocked it, they were still love it, and even president is hungry for his cancellation. Shah here is a hell, and every Kenya is talking it is a hell. They went ahead. Today, there are rumors that our police in Haiti have problems there. Court block that thing. William Ruto push it to the core. Thank God Donald Trump win the presidency in United States. There are some nonsense we will not have from the head of states in Africa, like even pushing and allow the Supreme Court to allow gayism in a secular country where, like Kenya, where we respect God, where we respect our culture, where our courts allow some silly things, because there was a woman here called Meg Whitman that has brainwashed the son of Sugoi with money to say, yeah, allow them to do so. Thank God Donald Trump is there. So at least we will have to go back to the rail, and we will find our way back. But for William Ruto, he is in a fight with the constitution. Kenyans, number 2, is in a fight with the Kenyan people. Number 3, he is in a fight with himself and the church. We will see where the war will take him to.
Okay, so thank you, Ayaga. You bring up strong issues there. So to you, we go back to the monarch. Want the monarch be worse than Queen Elizabeth and pre-colonial time? In the sense that, now I'm not negating that we had our own government that were working within our own African traditional setting. But now, since the world has become a global village, as it is described, and we are bound by international laws in terms of our interrelations, would it not be a setback for us to revert back to traditional way of dealing with things? And now, in the pretext of no universal application of the law, since everybody's now dealing it according to their way of doing things. For example, I don't want us to return this into a religious program, but there has been some refusal to register particular political parties within the Kenyan framework because they will be a violation of the constitution. Okay, the suggestion that we have African Christian political party or Islamic Party of Kenya, things like that. Those kind of framework are discouraged by the constitution. In fact, they are pronounced as being unconstitutional because they will introduce in other laws that are that will go against a certain population within the setting. So sisi tukirudi kwa mfano kwetu, in fact there is no community called Luya. I mean Bishop wako hapa. There is no tribe called Luya. Luya means baraza, the place where decisions are made, the gate where wazee wanakusanyika wanapeana ruling. That is Luya, the place where people sit to decide issues. So it was not a group of people, it was not a language. It is just that a scenario of deciding issues. But now, since white man couldn't relate to it, he grouped those people together and called them as what? Lawyers, the people who decide their cases from the gate. So now we have such scenarios. In the Luya community have their way of doing things. The Law community has their way of doing things. The Kalenjin community has their way of doing things. How do we live together if we don't have a common law and a common system that governs both of us equally and fairly? You respond to that in your second submission, and every other person, you're free to respond to the same as we continue with the conversation. Back to the IEBC Supreme Court, Kenya yetu mpya. Are we making progress or not? If not, what should we do in terms of the way forward? Because we are stuck here. And when I'm talking about we are stuck here, kumbuka tuko 61 years of independence. We have not gotten our election right, our education right, our healthcare right. Everything is falling apart. Now I hear Ruto preaching that animals should be vaccinated. Nani aliambia Ruto kwamba ugonjwa inakuja na hii ugonjwa itakuwa ya ng'ombe na yeye peke yake ndio ako na sindano ya kudunga ng'ombe? Mama, over to you.
Nani, mimi Penant?
Ya, wewe ndio mwenyewe sasa. Kwanza wewe ni mkulima wa ng'ombe?
Yes.
Haya, sindano ndio hizo.
Babu yangu alikuwa mkulima ya ng'ombe, lakini ya siku hizi hatujui ni ng'ombe ni dawa. Tumeletewa vitu wenye hata hatujui. Lakini Hii Kenya sijui mahali tunaenda Penat. Kila mtu amekuwa mwerevu kwa njia yake. Watu wanatengeneza maziwa, unapatia ng'ombe dawa, tunajiua tu. We are killing ourselves. Tunakimbilia vitu yenye si yetu. Eri uko na ile ingoko ya kienyeji, turudi kwa ile ng'ombe yetu tunakama na kikombe, ile wa Masai na yes, na Pokot na Turkana. Those are people, they have healthy milk. Sababu maziwa yao si ya kung'ang'ania. Unaenda kamua kikombe moja, unakamua kitambo ufike 5 utapata hata chupa moja. Lakini hii ya biashara hii wacha ikae. Because I don't know why do we want to kill ourselves. Ndio unaona usasi wa sasa haiwezi fananishwa na ile usasi wetu. Na ndio sababu hata I don't know, tunasaa watoto werevu, dakika ya mwisho ikifika katikati mambo imekuwa ngumu. So Penat, let me concentrate on IEBC na hii Supreme Court. Utaniambia vizuri what is the role of those people and why are they there? Hata kama tuliambiwa ati watakata kesi in 14 days. Have they done justice? Kwa nini sienda hata 5 years tujue umerik na tunangojea badala ya 14 days? Yani Penat tunaniambia unaenda nunua ile dawa ya tipi ya ng'ombe nikuje nikunywe in 14 days. Sieri nikae niishi tu. Because Supreme Court ni kichinjio mbaya sana. And then after that tunaambiwa we don't challenge them. Kwa nini Wakenya walikubali kupata kifo ya lazima? Huku mahali tuko, ukishakuwa msee na watoto wanaweza chukua pesa yako, wanasema mama usaini useme nikufe pole pole. Na wanakufa. Amesema anataka aende. So unakuta wiki moja anaanza kupatiwa maji, anapatiwa morphine. Kesho ukienda kuona hakuna na familia yani wamechoka. Sababu hawana time. Sasa hiyo ndio imefika Kenya. Hiyo imefika Kenya. Na sijui tutafanya, na si Kenya peke yake. But kuna mtu amesema Kano wanafanya vizuri. Nchi yao inaendelea vizuri na viongozi. So until the time we elect the right leaders, tutapunguza shida kwetu. Na kama tutakula pesa ya wanasiasa, tukubali kunyanyaswa. Tukikataa, kama sasa makanisa wanatuonyesha wanakataa. Are they serious? Ama tena ikifika election hiyo tumbo. Unajua kanisa wena nyinyi mko na maneno. Yesu anakuja, mmefanya Yesu hata hawezi rudi haraka. Anarudi wapi na watoto yake?
Unajua baba askofu ako hapa.
Ndio nataka nimwambie kwa sababu wanatuambia baba Yesu anakuja na hao ndio wanafanya makosa. Yesu anakataa kurudi. Angerudi hatungekuwa na hii shida. Angerudi hata mtu kama Ruto angekubali kukua mbaya kwa sababu unajua hiyo kurudi hakuna mtu anatakanga kwenda huko. Tunaimba tu Jumapili lakini ukitoka nje ya hiyo minute uambiwa sasa ni saa yako. Unasema si mimi ni Bishop alisema twende, sikukuwa ready. Penat. Acha unatupeleka mbinguni yenye hata nyinyi hamtaki kwenda. Shakaola alipeleka watu akamwambia muende mkutane na baba. Na wewe mimi naleta wengine. Nyinyi mtangulie, mimi narudi kuleta wengine. Kwa nini wewe usitangulie? Kwa sababu wewe unaenda kututengenezea njia ndio tukufuate. Bishop, mko na wafuasi lakini umetumaliza.
Baba askofu kazi kwako.
Mama. Mama. Hiyo si dini.
Hiyo ni nini? Si ni ukweli?
Hiyo ni ukorofi. Hiyo ni ukora.
Na kuna mabishop wamesema hiyo ni ukora.
Si ndio huyu anasema ni ukora. Hiyo ni ukora na ukorofi.
Yes, we.
Na unajua wakati dini imegeuzwa kukuwa mnada wa inabeba ukora wa aina yote, na kwa sababu tunaishi katika society ambayo inapenda wale ambao wanajua kujieleza, wale ambao wanajua kujinufaisha, wale ambao wanajua kujitangaza, tunafikiria hiyo ndo dini, tunafikiria sasa hiyo ndo kanisa. Lakini kama vile Bernard angekuambia kuna the church of the minority. Hawatuulizi. Unasikia kanisa limesema, lakini hao ni watu wachache tu wanaosema, ambao hawajauliza kanisa la Kenya vizuri wanasemaje. Ni watu wachache ambao ni vibaraka wa government wanaosema yale ambao masters wao wanataka kusikia. Na hivyo tusichanganyikiwe wakati inakuja kwa sauti ya kanisa. Tusichanganyikiwe kabisa. Tusichanganyikiwe. Kwa hiyo mtazamo wangu, unajua, kama vile bwana mmoja amesema ya kwamba we need to go back to monarch, and I was trying to think, so which tribe will produce this king? Rwanda is better because there are only 3 tribes or 2, and Kenya, we don't have that luxury. The problem we have a very wonderful constitution, but what we lack is constitutionalism. That is the willingness to follow and apply the details of our constitution. And secondly, the people who should be able to do that, they lack the integrity, the chapter 6 issues, in their words and in their action.
Bishop, wacha nikuulize, kwa nini Wateso wanaenda Uganda mahali king ya Teso iko Uganda? Si wangetuanzia hata Kenya tuone kingdom inakaa aje? Because Tesos wako na king, na king yao iko Soroti, sijui Soroti iko Uganda. And then unakuta wangetuwekea tuone. Unajua sisi wa Kenya hatukukuwa hata machief, tulikuwa na hiyo machief, lakini hatukufanikiwa kuwa na kingdoms, na kingdoms watu wana protect kwa sababu king na clan. Unajua hiyo sasa imechunga, kwa sababu watu wakora hawezi ingia kwa kingdom, hata wawezi karibia.
Mama,
naomba hivi tafadhali, mami, just let him respond, then you will do a follow-up question. Huh? Thank you. Bishop.
Mama national unity. Mimi ni Mwanga. Tuna king of Wanga, hata sasa yuko na itusaidii. Wacha ile ambaye king wao yuko Uganda. Huyu king wetu yuko Kenya. Tuko na kingdom, Wanga kingdom ingali iko, na tuko na mfalme, haitusaidii. So kingdom is not a solution, and it cannot help. Democracy is wonderful. It is great if it is done the way it is supposed to be done. If we have people with integrity, or we choose people with integrity in their words and actions, and we have the test machinery that we are able to bring them to task when they break the integrity test, then we are on the right path. But it seems in Kenya we abhor truthfulness and glorify lies and half-truths. And we want to celebrate such people. PLO Lumumba said when he was the chairperson or when he was working with the Anti-Corruption Commission, he said there were people who said, yes, he is the thief, but he is our thief. So we want to lift those people who have no integrity just because they come from our tribe, just because they come from our community. And that is one of the major problems that we have. If we have to take people to task based on their behavior, based on their claims, based on their character, not minding that they come from your neighborhood, then we are now approaching constitutionalism. And that's what we're saying. I am not ashamed to vilify somebody like Chebukati, although he's my neighbor back at home. I don't need to board a bus to reach his place. But these are criminals that should face the consequences of their actions. We must have a taste for that. We must have consequences for such like things. And so constitutionalism is our problem. And I must say, like what NCCK said, we as Kenyans and as Kenya, we are in a comatose. We are in a comatose. Na mambo ya ng'ombe, umesikia ya kwamba sasa ng'ombe tunakula punda, tukuli ng'ombe. Na punda ndio imekuwa inauzwa kila mahali. Tunangojea kuona watafanyaje mambo kama hayo. Because you don't tell me the government is not aware of such like things. Bernard. Bernard.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Bishop. Hey. So bei ya punda ni chipa kuliko ya ng'ombe?
Inaonekana.
Yeah, nimesikia ni 6,000, 7,000. Ng'ombe kwetu ukitaka kupeleka mahari ni 40,000. Sasa hizo ni punda ngapi? Mkubali tu mahari ya punda tumalizane hii maneno.
Si watuambie tu ya kwamba sasa tunastahili kugeuza nyama tukule punda. Unajua kiongozi mmoja huko kwetu ambaye ameshika nyadhifa mbalimbali aliambia watu wa kijiji yake wasichukue stima maana itawachoma. Na yeye kwake kuna stima. Watu kama watu wafanya aje, Bernard?
Sasa ndio shida, kwa sababu mtu anafikiria hivyo tena mnamuongezea uongozi. So ndio mimi nashindwa, are you rewarding madness or what is the problem? Because this somebody who is offside completely.
There is not even a road in his place.
Yeye ni msadikika. Shaban Robert. So we will see. We're coming back to you, Bishop. Thank you so much for that view of different structures of leadership and what we stand to gain by whatever change we advocate for. But in my opinion, if this country and its rule of law was led to function without any interference, I don't think we'll be having a crisis. The problem is what Ayaga talked about, where people who want to be in their constitutional office and not follow the constitution. They enjoy their position. They don't want to take the responsibility of the position that they hold. And when the law want to catch up with them, they go ahead and now frustrate the law. Ayaga said that Moi operated within the law. To some degree, that statement is true. But on the other side, Moi made laws, okay, that justified his actions. Okay, he wants to punish all the people who are not in Kanu. So what does he do? He sponsors a motion in parliament to go and declare a nation to be one-party state. so that he goes ahead and punishes those people who are going against KANU. So it is the same thing Ruto is doing. Aliambiwa askari wetu hawezi kwenda Haiti. The law does not support it. What did he do? He went to parliament and made that law and brought it to the judges. The judges accepted and it became law. The same thing with housing levy. The law does not support it. It is unconstitutional. Takes it to parliament with Baba Waroma and his group. They made the law, brought it to the judges. The judges now says with now this law, it is now constitutional. You see, it's the same history repeating itself. Somebody abusing the constitution to suit his, I'll call it evil character. Because if it was straightforward character, it will be given to follow what is stipulated as the law. Not for you to create law to create another way of operation in another system that is already operating. If William Ruto was the first one to enact this constitution, then we'll forgive him for the blunders he's making. But this constitution worked with Kibaki. It has worked with Uhuru. It worked with Uhuru when Ruto was deputy president for 10 years. Where is he finding difficult in following the same constitution? How has it become a problem all of a sudden if Kibaki worked with it, Uhuru worked with it, he was deputy under the same for 10 years? If he is only choosing to be mischievous. That's all I can see. He's choosing to be mischievous because I don't see how the 2010 constitution is frustrating him. He's frustrating himself. Why? He doesn't want to do what the constitution says. He wants to do what his manifesto says, his imagination says, of course, his godfathers have sent him to do. Unaona vile anahubiri maneno ya vaccination. Kana yeye ndo ataleta ugonjwa. He is preaching maneno ya sha. Aliyemuitisha sha ni nani? Okay, universal healthcare. No problem. Do I need an insurance policy to have universal healthcare? All I need is a working hospital, staffed hospital, stocked hospital, and accessible hospital. That's what universal healthcare is in my school of thought. Unatembea hivi kwa dispensary, utapata kupimwa, utahudumiwa, wakaguzi, wauguzi na kila kitu. That's how our government works. Si ati uende uregister kwanza kwa SHA, ndio sasa dawa ipatikane. SHA ndio inaleta dawa. SHA ndio inaleta madaktari. SHA ndio inajenga mahospitali. Na nataka kila mtu afikirie kama yeye tu. Sasa yeye ameona shida kubwa kwa hii Kenya ni SHA. SHA ikiweko tu, madaktari watakuwa, hospitali zitakuwa, madawa itakuwa, bora tu mmejisajili kwa SHA. And he wants Kenyans to dance it and support it. Akisindikizwa na flower girl wake wa soprano. We must as Kenyans reject that madness. Kama William Ruto ameshindwa kuongoza nchi, a resign. Nini kushindwa ameshindwa, si eti constitution imekata. Constitution imefanya na Kibaki, ikafanya na Uhuru. So saa hii imekatikia wapi? Breaks zilivunjikia wapi? Asante sana. Naomba tafadhali Gabon new president shocks everybody. Asil 2 TV, naomba link yake kama uko nayo. Machine hizi ziko na shida. When I begin to open new windows, my enemies will catch me. But let me see if Ayaga, you can find that clip. Yeah, Gabon new president shocks everybody. I don't know what that is. Sijaona. Tunarejea kwa Furaha. Furaha, tukianza hata muda umekatika, lakini give your submissions, and then of course we should begin to tie up on the issue of the way forward. But before that, let me just play this clip. Let me just play this clip to see Sahau. I think it has something that we need to catch up with.
To Kenya now, where the runner-up in the presidential election, has confirmed that he will contest the result. Raila Odinga called the outcome a travesty and accused the chairman of the Electoral Commission of acting unilaterally and illegally in declaring William Ruto Kenya's next president. Despite his strong words, Odinga urged his supporters to remain peaceful.
Is over. But like every presidential outcome in Kenya since 2002, this one too is disputed.
In our view, there's neither a legally and validly declared winner nor a president-elect. Mr. Chebukati's announcement purporting to announce a winner is a nullity. He acted with gross impunity and in total disregard of the Constitution and our laws.
Odinga lost his fifth bid for the top job, despite the support of his old rival and outgoing president Uhuru Kenyatta. People in his stronghold city of Kisumu have mixed feelings about challenging the results.
I think what Raila should do right now, he should go to court and for them to decide who should become the president of Kenya. But as per our views, Raila is the president of Kenya.
Okay, it can go to court and we can win. So, but my fear is the court might order that we go for re-election, which is going still to be mismanaged like this one.
Meanwhile, Ruto's supporters are eager for him to take office soon.
Since the start of the election, it was very peaceful. As you can see, also the atmosphere is now relaxed, and it will continue being relaxed because we are expecting our fifth president to come in anytime now.
But Kenya could face weeks of uncertainty, and the way forward may ultimately be decided in court.
So another contested election in Kenya. A little earlier, I spoke to Murithi Mutiga from the International Crisis Group in Nairobi. I asked him if this is a setback for Kenyan democracy, or does it show that Kenyan democracy is functioning?
I would say that it shows Kenyan democracy maturing and institutions are developing more and more. Because as I said in the past, when you had disputed elections, you would have immediate communal clashes, the police firing into protesters. This was a very heavily contested election. 14 million people voted. The two top candidates were separated by only 200,000 votes, roughly 1.7%, and the country still seems calm. And very importantly, the institutions are being asked to arbitrate the dispute between the two top candidates. So I would say this is progress for the country. Elections in the region are almost always coronations. So you don't really have competition. I think competitive democracy is maturing in Kenya, and there are good lessons for the region.
Okay, thank you everyone as we continue. Furaha, over to you.
I think we're in a good place because for me, what I'm hearing from the panelists is that the buck stops with us. We cannot, it seems like we cannot rely in our institutions fully because of how they've treated us in the past. So we still have to trust in ourselves more and take that mandate that the Constitution has given us in terms of being the sovereign people. And this, Bernard, requires a staying power that it is not going to happen quickly, and we have to be resilient enough to not tire. That if we have a challenge or something, something comes up and we get disoriented, we get lost, we get we just lose our focus, and we also lose hope. We have to have that staying power to say we are going to continue to check our institutions, because if history is repeating itself in terms of, what Moi was doing is coming back in what Ruto is doing, then it means we are never really safe unless the institutions are working for us. Because we might work hard right now and get out Ruto, but if we are not careful about whom, how we choose or how we vote, we might end up with somebody who is going to show us dust again, somebody who is going to be worse than the people that we've had before. And if in the process of trying to make changes in terms of the voting, I think also empowering our institutions, because here is a case where as the people who are the bosses, we feel helpless. The people who we've elected as in terms of parliament think that they need to work with the executive in order to give us the results we want, rather than being able to check the executive so that things work for the Kenyans. So in all this mess, it seems like what we are all saying, the shortfalls of the institutions that we have vested our power in, it seems like we have to recapture our power, that we are the ones who will matter in the end. And if we don't do that, these institutions are still going to fall short of our expectations, the expectations that we have in them. So you find that hiyo kusadikika unasema, if you look at that clip that you have just played, we have two divides. It's like, some people are living in a different country, and so long as it looks like I have the person that I was vouching for in power, then I don't care what else, how he got there, how it has come to be. But so long as it's something that I want, I live in this utopia, this imaginary kusadikika country where, I think that, let's just go on. Everything is clear. The 200,000 votes doesn't matter. Ruto has won it. Let's go forward, regardless of how he has won it, regardless of all the election malpractice that we saw. We want to assume that, in the long run, so long as we put our person there, things are going to work magically. So as long as Kenyans, we are not having the continuity, because it seems like we get a push and we struggle, but it's the staying power that we require, that we don't stop. We are continuously pushing, we are continually agitating, so much so that, we are knocking on that door until somebody says we've knocked so much that the best thing they can do is open it and let us in and listen to what we are saying. Because we don't lack people of integrity, just like Mama Selina and the panelists are saying. The question is, the system is so rotten that you put this good fruit in that basket of rotten apples, and chances are they might also go bad. And even if they survive, like maybe the people we are counting who have done well, their impact is so minimal that it doesn't get us, to where we want to be. So it requires that all the people of integrity, the many of us who are still there, who know that we want something better for this country, it means we have to be consistent in this move of trying to get things right. And if we are going to agitate for, IEBC to be corrected, especially the Secretariat, we want the Supreme Court to do its mandate, the powers that it has been given by the Constitution and the consequent acts. We want to see them perform, so that if they're the ones who are letting us down, and we have a way of letting our voice be heard, and show them that we are not happy with what they're doing, it will come a point when things can change. Just out of quickly, I remember right now walking in the CBD, it is hell on earth. But I remember Gakuo was here and you couldn't spit in Nairobi. You could not spit. You were afraid to spit. Kutema mate tu tuliogopa. Kwa sababu Gakuo aliweka safi na akasema akaanza ku round up all the street families. And you know, but we are back to where we were and we are worse off than where we were. But we have always had glimpses of the possibility that actually it can happen. It can happen. It can be done by, you know, our very own people. We just need to have that willpower to stay, to see choke, and let's not. We have people who wanajitolea, and then we rely on them so much so that we forget that, you know, it's not really up to them, it's up to all of us. So if we continue working in this, the way we are thinking, the way I see the panel, the ideas that are coming on board, I think this is where Kenya needs to go, where we are looking at history. It's informing what we are going through right now, and we are also forecasting and saying, if indeed we change, we are able to push for the change in this secretariat. All these employees wenye wako, I think some of the returning officers are part of the IBC, these 339 people that exist. If we can work on that institution being cleaned up one at a time, or, you know, multi-pronged, whatever it takes, I think there's a sense in which I think the mood is just right. The mood is just right for us right now, because we have people who never voted, who are thinking, you know, we are going to wake up in the morning and vote and make changes. But if the environment is still not right, we are saying we are going there. Ayaga told us that, you know, we have to get there with the right environment so that that change can happen. I think it's possible. And if our institutions are letting us down, we have ourselves as the people that we must rely on. You know, if it is the church that is letting us down, we have to be the people, because the church is just an institution. We are the ones who are members of those churches. So, you know, I think the voices here are telling us, that's what I get, that I have to be that change. I have to work and not get tired, because it's not going to happen, you know, shortly. It's a war, and fought for long. You don't go in and you fight and you win. Sometimes you have to take your time, and when the challenges come, you retreat, you look at how you have failed, and you come back better and stronger. Yes, Bernard.
All right, thank you for that. That's interesting and important. Kenyans, let's keep the focus, keep in the struggle. My trouble with what Fraha is talking about is that the current regime does not believe in those institutions working, because when Ruto came in office, HELB was an institution. It was working. NHF was an institution. It was working. What else? The Ministry of Education was working effectively, had been set. I want you to compare the Uhuru Kenyatta operation. Huh? He hands over education to Magoha, and he leaves him to set things in order, and things begin to work. Exam cheating, all of it is taken care of. Kagwe comes into the Ministry of Health, runs superb program to combat and control the spread of COVID effectively in wherever different ministries coming together, sector working together, and everything functions. Uhuru anaendelea kunona tu na nchi inaendelea because he has let institutions to work. Bishop Ruto comes in he says, hii sio mzuri ifungwe, hii sio mzuri ifungwe, hii sio mzuri ifungwe. So mkisema we should let institutions work, which ones? Hizi mashisha shasha ama ni gani? Kwa sababu HELB imefungwa, okay, wanasema sijui wameleta ingine. NHF imefungwa, wameleta ingine. Ministry of Education, for the first time we printed papers in industrial area. Children sat for exams that they did not study. Wala hawafanyangi Islamic waletewa majibu ya Islamic. Wala hawafanyi CRE wakaletewa majibu ya CRE. All of it under one supervision of one person called William Ruto. So are we ever going to get our institutions to work with somebody who is anti-institutions working? That's a question we must answer. Shaima anasema Bernard una pepo. It is true. Iko na Roho Mtakatifu. Hiyo kuja upime uone. Iko kubwa tena nyingi tena. So, lakini ile mchafu ile ya Ruto hiyo ndio tunatoa. Okay? Na niko hapa na bishop wangu na Wakristo wengi tu hapa wamejazwa Roho Mtakatifu. Tu kama Ruto ako na shida na pepo mchafu, all he needs to do is to call. Ache kuteta, akuje tu submit, tutatolea yeye pepo mchafu. Lakini kulingana na ile hali ilivyo, inakaa yeye ndio huyo pepo. All the same, thank you. Naomba hivi, muda ndio huo unaendelea kuyoyoma. I want us to begin to wrap up. But before that, tumpatie Mama Mary achangie, alafu tunarudi kwa Ayaga. Ayaga akianza hivyo ni Ayaga and then Bishop, then tutakuwa tunafunga. Unless kuna la ziada. Niendelea tu kuwahimiza, karibisha mtu, piga kura. Sijui, hebu ngoja kidogo tu kura tuone vile tumepiga, kama tunaendelea vizuri. In your opinion, has IEBC and the Supreme Court helped improve election process in Kenya? 86 people have responded to the poll question, and 16% say yes, 84% say no. The Supreme Court and the IEBC have not helped improve the electoral process in Kenya. Sijui mnaonaje kwa hilo? Mama Mary, karibu. How are you?
I'm good, Bernard. Nasalimia kila panelist. Nasalimia watu kutoka pande ya comment section. Wakenya wetu pahali popote wako. Na wasalimia kwa nguvu za Mungu. Now, I will start with what people really are talking about IEBC. IEBC is intentionally not constituted because of an idea that this fake government is creating. They are afraid that things may go wrong if IEBC is there. They are afraid that we'll call off, that we'll call off some of these evil minds. And so he feels he's sitting on the power, and he is the power, and he is everything. And that's the point. Nothing else. They are fearing to do that. So it is intentional, deliberate. Niende kwa hiyo mambo ya ng'ombe kuchanjwa. Wananchi pahali popote wako. This time round, we know who is bringing this chanjo ya ng'ombe. Na kwetu sio tu kuko na ng'ombe zimejaa kila inchi. Na sioni sababu gani this time round. Saa ile tuko na mikasa mingi, mashida mingi ya huyu mtu, ndio tunaletewa tena kitu ambacho tunauliza swali. What is going on and why our animals should be vaccinated? Why this time? Siku zile ng'ombe walikuwa wanagonjeka, it was a location kama area moja, ng'ombe wamepata huo ugonjwa wa foot and mouth. We would hear news that in a certain area this has happened, and so those mifugo should not cross the border and they should stay isolated. And once the disease is over, it is declared and announced. This time round, they won't vaccinate our... Kwanza nilisikia ati wanyama wanakuwa vaccinated, ndio sijui watoe nyama mzuri, sijui wafanye nini. Honestly, this is something that Kenyans should sit back and ask themselves a question. Whatever we eat in our country, we eat good stuff, and we have never complained. This time round, why should somebody tell us this is what he is going to do so that we can have this? We are not interested. Tena nikumbusha wa Kenya, kuna mama ambaye alikuwa anaongea na akasema, how about wanyama wale wako huko msituni wengi kabisa kuliko hata ng'ombe zetu, na bado wanafanya hicho kitendo ng'ombe zetu zinafanya. Are they going to be vaccinated? Those are the questions Kenyans should ask themselves. And in fact, you should see them coming to vaccinate your cow and chase them away. Don't even try to think that they are good people, even 1 minute. And I will give an example. When this jambazi came with the bottom up, hata mkubwa mzungu mwingine sitamtaja alisema bottom up, na kwao ilianguka, haikufanya kazi bottom up. It didn't work. So hii mambo ya miigizo tunaletewa hapo, it's an insult to us, like we are fools, and we are not fools, Kenyans. Remember about the farming, watu wakaambiwa wasilime mahindi, wasilime ngano, walime avocados. Nani analima ngano sahi? Nani analima mahindi sahi? Does it mean si yeye ndiye angekuwa example ya avocado? Those are the things that Kenyans should learn from. Na hiyo uchungu wote mnaendea, ni kweli tuliingiza miguu yetu na mikono yetu na vichwa zetu kwa huu uchungu. But are we going to accept to continue being in it? It is hurting and it is very, very painful the way it is right now. But we should not allow other things to happen before we find ourselves out of this killing situation that we are in. Hatutaki kuletewa mambo ingine ya kutuchanganya. Hatutaki kuletewa maneno ingine ya kutufanya ati tudhoofike, tukubali hiyo. Na yale ya mbele hakuna hata moja imefanyika. Kenyans should not accept that. Hiyo mambo ya chanjo akae nayo, aende ajichanje, ama aende kwa nchi yao akachanje wanyama. Honestly, that is an insult, a big abuse to us. Kutuonyesha ati anaweza kuja kutumia wanyama wetu ndio aweze kupitisha ile mambo anataka kupitisha. Let me give an example. Once those vaccinations are done to these animals, ambao unajua kweli kabisa unakula nyama zake, unakunywa maziwa yake, alafu magonjwa yaanze kuingia, who will be the first people to be? Pharmacists. Now pharmacies will move in our country. Ndio muanze kukunywa madawa na magunia, kubeba na mabags kwa nyumba zenu. And that is what has happened to other countries which have accepted that. I'm not a propagandist. It is true. That will happen. And if we allow this guy to do these bad things to our animals, which you know very well, these animals are next to us, is part and parcel of us. Ndio tunawatumia kwa mambo mingi, maziwa, nyama, all this. Sisi tumekuwa na hao wanyama many years, na hatuja complain ati tunagonjeka kwa sababu yake. Ati ndio mtu akuje na idea ya kusema, why should it even be Ruto Kasongo is the one who is saying, introducing and selling this thing to us, while we know ni mambo gani mabaya machafu wamefanyia wananchi. Unawezaje kukubali muuziwe mambo ingine na huyu mtu kabla hata hajatimiza yale alipromise na yale amefanya maovu, alafu muendelee kuletewa maovu ingine muwekelewe juu ya hiyo? Why should we carry that burden? Why should we accept? We should completely refuse. Na hata hao watu wakipatikana, tafadhali wa Kenya wafukuzeni na mseme wanyama wenu hawawalipii, hawawapei chakula ya kukula, hawawalishi, si hao wanawajengea boma. Ni nyinyi mnazunguka na wanyama wenu, na nyinyi ndio mnasumbuka na wanyama wenu. And so for that reason, you should not be introduced to something that is going to bring a calamity to your family, because that is what it is. Hii mambo yote ambayo amefanya maovu imekasirisha kila mtu. Hakuna mtu anatibiwa saa hii, mashida imezidi ya magonjwa. Ile magonjwa kidogo tuko nayo ije izidishwe na ile kidogo ambayo tuko nayo Mungu ametujalia na sisi watu wetu wanajimudu, tuwe ati tutaongezewa ingine juu ya hiyo. Can you imagine what threat will be? What problems will be in that country? Ile few cases that we have, it is untreatable because there are no medication. Hospitals have collapsed. Alafu tuje tuletewe ingine iwekelewe juu ya hiyo zaidi na zaidi, ndio sasa tukufe kabisa. And you know, somebody said, saa ile sisi tunadhoofika tuwe wadhaifu, tutaabudu mtu ambaye ni mnyama kwetu. Right now, Ruto is an animal to us because there is nothing good he has ever brought on the table to help Kenyans. Wakenya hawajawahi kucheka kwa sababu ya huyu mtu. Kila mtu ni kulia. What kind of government is that? That is introducing things that will bring calamity to his people. What promises did he give us? That he is going to make Kenya great. What greatness do we have in our country right now? Nothing. It's only chaos, cries, killings, abductions. Those are things that he put on the table and he liked them so much. Kwa sababu kiongozi ambaye anasema hajaona jina ya mtu yoyote, kweli kabisa, hiyo ni matusi kwetu. Wamama, wazazi wa Kenya wengi wanalia, watoto wao hawajulikani pahali wako. And by the way, did you know the number of Shakahola people who were killed? 489 cases, dead bodies. All these things were happening. Unataka kuniambia serikali haikuwa aware? Unataka kuniambia hakuna nyumba 10 area hiyo ya kujua watu wanavanish wanaenda wapi? Watu wakakamuliwa pesa zao, wakauza mashamba yao, wakaenda huko. Huu ni ugonjwa gani wa Kenya walikuwa wameletewa? Mambo maovu kabisa. Ujiulize swali moja, Mackenzie alikuwa anafanya hii kazi yote, serikali ikiwa wapi? How can we have a dumb government that never knows that his nation is going down? People are being killed. People are vanishing. Lakini hawangejua. And the moment that it was discovered, nobody was allowed to go there. At journalists, they were not allowed to go there so that they don't report the reality. And that is where we are. So how can we trust this Kasongo? How can we trust anything that comes from him? In fact, we better die with our animals, trying to feed them, rather than a foreigner coming to vaccinate our animals with what we don't know. And we don't have time to go and do investigation. The only thing to say is no, because your animal have been there years and years before this guy come to engage himself to do that dubious things. And we are not going to accept. Things are very serious in our country, and they are being made more serious because the leader, the fake leader that we have, is entertaining all these evil things to happen to the nation. The nation is not going to stand that. We are going to rise up and beat all these things. Go away and get out of our country because we don't need it. There are sufferings that we have undergone. It's enough. We don't want more over what we have. I pray for my country. I always pray, and I believe one day this country will come great because that's where I belong. My family, my root is Kenya, my motherland. I cry for it because I love my country. It will never be compared with any other country. That is the only country I know that I can cherish, I can enjoy, I can move from one corner to the other, I can enjoy the natural food. That is where I belong. And that is where every Kenyan belongs. So Kenyans, stand up for your country. Let's not accept this mingizo ambayo tunaletewa na watu wa kutoka nje. Hawana huruma na nyinyi, hawana haja na nyinyi, na mkikosa kujihurumia wao watawamaliza with this guy who is supporting them aimlessly. He don't know what he is doing. He just want to be there and for only show off that he is a president, a fake president that we got. The other thing I want to point out. Sorry, Bernard, let me take 1 minute. Let me say something.
Summarize.
Yes, I will. There's one thing I want to say. Hii mambo ambayo tuliambiwa ati kesi ya uchaguzi ikienda kotini alafu iwe nullified ati election ifanywe tena, tukaanza kuambiwa ati it will be very expensive, the country has no money. Can you sit down now and count how much money has been spent in this country? Trillions of money. Where did it come from? Why were you not able to do another election? It's just a propaganda on top of propagandas. Thank you very much, Bernard. Kenyans, wherever you are, fight for your country. Asante sana.
Okay, thank you, Mommy. We appreciate that. It's a concern for every right-thinking Kenyan. And we are in the middle of the struggle to see to it that we achieve the recovery of the country. But the truth is, this country is too twisted and too messed up that it may not have one straight answer to everything. But a journey of 1,000 miles begin by a single step. We can bring down a mountain carrying one spoon at a time. So let's do our part and keep into the struggle. My difficulties at the moment is how we are shallowly going about this. Shallowly in the sense that we are letting, I think, our anger get the best of us until we are not giving it serious thought in terms of how we're going to fix this country. We think by getting rid of one leader or two will fix the country, but the enormous responsibility that lies on the shoulder of whoever that is going to fix this country is huge, and it will require much more than our assumption. And so I would want us to keep everything in proper perspective. Our education is dead. We need to bring it back to life. Our healthcare, it does not exist. It needs to be brought back to effect. Our agriculture is gone. It's no longer there. Now we are looking on how to get rid of animals so that we become the consumer economy that we are supposed to be. Importing meat, importing maize, importing toothpick, importing toothpaste, and everything else. How somebody can be in office to ensure that that happens, it does not add up. Ayaga, karibu.
Okay, thank you very much. I want just to answer a very few questions. I think it is only one. When I say let us look for a system that works for us, I never mean to go back to our kingdoms and chiefs. We can look for a modern way or a modern system. Like you see, what is working in France is not working, is not the same thing that work in Germany. The kind of democracy in Spain is not the kind of democracy that works in United Kingdom. And it's not the same that works in Poland. But in Africa, even in United States, they have a very different kind of democracy. So let us not have one thing called democracy, that we expect the same thing to work in Uganda, to work in Kenya, to work in Ethiopia, to work in South Africa, Namibia, and Angola. We may be mad. Let us look at our cultures and let us look at the different countries and the potential of every country, and at least a system can be choreographed for each and every country, so that our problems may not be the same way as Uganda's or Tanzania's problem. They can get for something that works for them, rather than having a system where we have election in fight before 2 years to election or 3, there is an infight. Then after election, then after 2 years after election, then there is infight. So you only work for maybe 1 year or less than a year. And then we expect a development. We are talking about having a Singapore in Africa. It will not work for us. So we must actually identify something that work for individual countries in Africa. I think that is all for today, and I wish everybody well, our viewers, our commentators, my fellow panelists. I want to thank you very much. Have a brilliant morning. Those who are at the midnight can have a very wonderful night. And everyone, may God protect us and give us wisdom so that we make a good rule, a good choice next time we make our leaders. Our problem again, the best now, the last thing I will say that our problem with William Ruto is only the MPs. If we could only watch what happened in South Korea, and then you look at our MPs in Kenya, you know, all these things we blame president, it is because we don't have MPs. We have only kanks and kakas in the name of members of parliament. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you, Ayaga. We appreciate that. Thank you for your input. We will win members of parliament. That is why I'm saying hii Kenya tunahitaji kufikiria sana, kwa sababu hiyo bunge inafanana na wale watu nilikuweka huko, na tuwezi kuibadilisha tusipobadilisha hao watu, na hao watu hao kutoka mbinguni ama kuzimu, ni ndugu zetu, dada zetu, tunaishi nao, tulienda shule nao. Ni nini makosa na sisi kwamba wakati tuko na nafasi ya kuchagua mtu wa kwenda kutuwakilisha, kwa football tunataka the best, kwa athletics tunataka the best, hivyo kwa bunge tunachukua mtu wa mandazi Bishop, hata kanisani mnafanyanga hivyo, hadi ikifika mnataka kutuma mtu kwa huduma, mnatafuta ile the worst of them all. Is that a criteria?
That's not the criteria. That's not a criteria. But I will say, for the last 2 years, running into 3, and maybe it may go to 5, it has been a university for Kenyans, a God-appointed university, because Kenyans thought that now they have overcome the Moi era and they are through with that ghost. They can do what they want, only to realize that if they are not careful, they can sink in a more deeper abyss of Moi era through William Ruto, who is worse and the worstest of them all. But through the suffering that Kenyans have gone through, if you listen to them, I think they have learned and they are learning. And we have had a test run by the Gen Z that what is possible and what can be done. That was a test run. And I do think we are not going back. We are not going to believe some voices purporting to be prophets and saying, now we have a David, now we have a savior who will save us from all the calamities. We are not going to believe them anymore. We are going to be more careful in the new coming elections. Whether the institutions will remain as they are, I think the Kenyans have a resolve through the pain. And why am I saying that? I am saying that for several reasons. Number one, because of such conversation. We could not be having such a conversation. I think, Bernard, you would have been hanged a long time ago. But this conversation is enriching the minds of Kenyans, and they are seeing what is wrong. They are able to make sober decisions and know that the consequences of those decisions, they will live with those consequences. Secondly, I am saying that because of the fearlessness that we are seeing Kenyans now expressing. They are now able to criticize whoever it is fearlessly. And that shows you that they have woken up from the slumber. They are not now saying our person. They are not now saying my neighbor, because they have seen what that can do to our lives. They have seen what that can do to the Mamamboga. They have seen what that can do to border riders. And everyone you hear, even those who are supporting, now they don't want to hear that anymore. Why? Because it has been tough on them. And not only that, you're also seeing the church, their eyes opening, and now they are recanting their former stand. Are they not the same who celebrated William Ruto? Are they not the same who went to State House on that day to say God has sent a Messiah? They were expecting that was the Christ to come and save Kenya. Now they are eating the crow and they are saying, no, he's a liar. No, he is false. No, is this. So going forward, the church will be a little bit careful not to fall in that trap. And that's why I say it has been a school, though a painful one, but that pain will remain with them so that we can make right decision going forward. In fact, even the people who will be put in the institutions, they are also feeling the pinch. Only that they can't turn, there is no wiggle room. But given a chance, we will make the right decision. That's why there is a delay in setting up, not a delay, a complete refusal in setting up the IEBC, because they can foresee what will happen. But regardless of what they do now, we will have a chance to exercise our sovereign will again. We will have it. And we must continue this conversation. And Kenyans must be sensitized and be told the truth and how to go about it. We will soon be out of this ABC. Bernard.
Thank you so much, Bishop. We appreciate that clear, precise, and to the point. As we begin to wrap up our conversation, Kenyans, the responsibilities on our shoulders. This country is ours. We must not let it go to the dogs under our watch. And my prayer is what Bishop is saying is the reality on the ground in terms of let the pain you have suffered under this mismanagement of William Ruto not be in vain, okay? You know, going through a rough time is not an issue. The lessons you draw from that rough time is what is important. I had one preacher teaching on the advantages of pain, and najua ubiri nyinyi mnakuja na topic ambazo zinatisha. The advantages of pain. When you have a bad experience and you forget the lessons that bad experience brought you, then you have lost that bad experience. So this bad experience we're having in this country, let it teach you a lesson. You see what the political class is doing. They are still invoking that card of tribalism, that card of Mutuetu. And it has worked every time. They believe it can work. Can we disappoint them and just stand for, when it comes to Kenya, is Kenya and not a tribe, not a community? And I agree with Bishop, even Kina Lenawala, when they're doing those outbursts, because there is an underlying regret somewhere, an underlying sleeping on the job somewhere. They are owning up their responsibility, because I believe the relationship between the general elections, the IEBC, the Supreme Court, those things are not put there as just rubber stamps. They're supposed to be stoppers, okay? That if we did not stop a bad person from going to the ballot, okay, The Kenyans will go and stop it by not voting for the person. But in case he passes, okay, and Kenyans did not stop him on the ballot, he should be stopped at the Supreme Court. That's how I interpret the interrelations about these things. Now, kama mtu ni mbaya, tumejaribu kustopisha asihusike katika, like now, I think tomorrow we'll be looking at that. There is another suggestion that from the behavior, the mismanagement, the abuse of office that William Ruto has displayed for these 2 years, he should be expunged from IEBC books and he should not vie in any election in this country. That's something we will look at, and I would want something like that to happen, because there is no law that says an incumbent has to be in the elections. See, Biden surrender na ikaenda. So there is no reason why William Ruto has to be on the ballot. But even if it's not on the ballot, the other people that will be on the ballot, who are we going to settle for? On which criteria, and what will inform that particular decision? And so I would want us to think deeply about it and put the country ahead of our personal comfort, our tribal altars, and our regional, wherever, centers of decision. Let's make sure that when we are making a decision for Kenya, let it be for a better Kenya. And a better Kenya, just like our athletes, tukiwatuma Olympics, we get the best of the best to peleke waende compete with the world. The same with footballers, netballers, basketballers. There's one of our basketball team that won a championship, I think, yesterday or the day before. We want the best to go and compete. Lakini ikifika kwa national leadership, we want mtu wa mandasi, mtu wa mkokoteni. Hapana. The standard has to remain the same. Excellent. We must first be the best before we are fast. We must first be the best before we are fast. So we must get the best man to be the president, the best woman to be the woman rep, the best father to be the number one father. Not anything that comes and says, I am this, I want this. Mutanipatia, si tumekubaliana. Itunaanza hapa tukienda hivi. What are you bringing on the table? What is your track record? How have you performed where you've been before we admit you here? So that has to be seriously considered. And then the Supreme Court, I think we need to redefine what their role is. Do they understand that they are supposed to be a stopper of evil and not an enhancer and facilitator of evil? To me, they are facilitating evil. Even when the High Court says this thing is unconstitutional, when it goes to the Supreme Court, they say it is okay. So they don't understand why they exist as a Supreme Court. They need to get some counsel from Bishop Silas here and the other bishops wawaambie sababu yao kuwa hapo ni kuzuia maovu, sio kufacilitate maovu. And justice is injustice. Justice for one, creating injustice for many is an injustice. Okay? One person dies for the nation. You don't kill the nation for one person. So let's keep everything in perspective. Mama National Unity, najua umezama, tunafunga. Kuna la ziada? Okay, mamini kama ameondoka. So lastly, Furaha, you can drop in something as we bring the curtains down.
Okay. I like where we are right now, because you brought that question in order to take us back to the focus that we have somebody who is a killer of institutions. Under him, he has no respect for institutions, so they will not work. In other words, he is the problem, and we have to see that we have to find a way of getting rid of him, because if we want our institutions to work, it will not happen under him. And some of the institutions that are being targeted are so key in terms of the future of this country. If you're thinking education, you're thinking health, those are so basic, they're so fundamental that anyone who is interfering with them is actually trying to just magnify himself. He just wants a situation where everything is so bad that he ends up being able to control and just be able to sort of survive. And then the other angle that you have pointed out, that if he is this bad, is there a way of ensuring that he is not on that ballot by virtue of, we cannot accept the kind of the kind of underperformance and the kind of the wrong things that have happened in this country. We are not allowing this person to be able to be on that ballot for whatever reason. Because the question you have asked, I compare it to another time when I had when there were town hall meetings way back when. I think Louis Otieno was the one who was conducting them, and one doctor stood up, a very young doctor, and said, when I am donned and gowned and I am opening your head or your stomach or I'm cutting up your body, you don't care that I am Kisi or I am Kikuyu or I am Luo, and you lay your life on that table for me to be able to operate you. And then when I want a post and say I want to lead this country, you're like, oh no, you're not capable. Yeah. So that question that you have asked, that how is it that, when it comes to national leadership, we settle for, mediocrity, and yet we have people who are capable. Why should an MCA not have qualifications? And he's going to be representing a doctor, a journalist, a priest, a bishop. He's going to represent us. And yet we want him to not have any qualities that we have in our areas of professionalism or jurisdiction. And this is somebody who is supposed to go and interpret laws in a legislative house that will determine how my life is affected. So I think Kenyans, we have to get there where we are going to demand even an MCA is going to be somebody of some caliber that is capable of representing me adequately. That is why we have problems. We struggle. We want to pay our interns peanuts. We want to pay them, less than we pay our. What does an MCA do for you? In terms of, what does he do for you? Going to represent you, and you can't even. There's no scorecard, and there's no reverse gear in terms of you've not performed well, I can take you out. Who is this person who can say this person is not performing? We can't wait for 5 years, because that happens in all the other professions. If I recruit you and you're not working, I'm not going to wait 5 years to say, oh, your contract is 5 years, so just work. That comes to an end. So I think those are the things that we are saying, that our MPs, for example, that has also come up. Bishop has mentioned that, some of these people are falling short in terms of what they're doing for us there. And first of all, some of the bills that are going there are, they're not the ones that we are interested in. And the house is empty. Bills are being, the same culprits are the only ones you will see in the house. So many seats are empty, and you're wondering, where are they? For all the money that they get in a month, how many times do they come to that house? And that 2010 constitution that you mentioned has to be reviewed in terms of how many times these people are supposed to be there. And even if they're supposed to offer something, if not, that recall clause should come, so that midway, we can say you haven't done anything, go back, we are electing somebody. As long as Kenyans, we are diligent, and we are focused and we are asking tough questions, I think we are going to get there. We will get a situation where we have people who are working for us. The house cannot be empty when we are discussing crucial bills. Na mtu anangoja tu kuimpeach Gachagua. Anangoja tu wajae wakiimpeach Gachagua, which is in their right and it depends on the veracity of the situation. But we have others that are so core to what we want. Hawapo, you have an empty house. I think going forward, we should think about how you said we think deeply on how we can get this thing to work for us and ensure that if Ruto by some chance survives these 5 years, we ensure that 2027 is not there. But if we work hard enough, probably he may not get to 2027. Thank you, Bernard and Mama Selina. And the rest of them.
Thank you, Farhat. Thank you so much for your input. Thank you for making time to be part of the conversation today. Thank you, Mama Unity. Thank you, Bishop Silas. Thank you, Ayaga and Mama Mary for making time to speak to us. Thank you, all of you on the comment section. Tuni, our PS, Modern Minds Unfold. Thank you so much. Due diligence. Asil2 TV nimekuona, thank you. Shaima, Serenoma, asanteni sana kwa kufanikisha show ya leo. Tutaweka tu koma hapo, tutaendelea hiyo kesho tukizungumzia masuala nyeti kama haya. We may just divert to that aspect of, is there a way of stopping Ruto from vying, because that is an option we can't ignore. That's an option we need to exercise and use it. If it has worked in America, it should work in Kenya. And I think there are enough grounds. If we can't impeach him through parliament, we should impeach him by denying him to be on the ballot. And those are things we can do through the courts, okay? And any Kenyan is able to sanction that in view of this and this and this. This person is not fit for public office. Come next election, he should not be on the ballot. That is what Uhuru Kenyatta failed to do. That is what landed us into this problem. We should not let that happen again. So as Kenyans, tujitahidi. Supreme Court and then IEBC. The main problem inatokana na, I think, Kibaki, partly Kibaki, then Uhuru Kenyatta. Kibaki is the one who started the 2010 constitution, its implementation. There is how the new constitution was supposed to be structured in such a way that the county governments are not independent of the central government in terms of service delivery and functionality. To me, IEBC should be in each county, but as a department in the county government, presided over by the president of the county. Okay, so that instead of everything being controlled in Nairobi, things are done on the ground. Elections are conducted in the county. Like in the US, the different states can vote for several ballots, and then all those things are tabulated, and then we have a winner. This rigging takes place because of centralized way of doing things. But kama tunapiga Kisumu Wednesday, okay, I mean Kisumu County Wednesday, Mombasa County of Friday ingine. And then I think we'll be able to manage the election more effectively, and we will really have the mind of Kenyans, the vote the Kenyans people have decided. So I would suggest, as we look into the issue of IEBC, its reconstitution, first and foremost, let it be disbanded. The conclusion from this show, IEBC should be disbanded. We should not even consider those 395 people. Disband the whole thing. Let's restructure it. And when we restructure it, let it be devolved. Devolved in the sense that it's under counties. regardless of you are an ODM county or wherever UDA county, the county belongs to Kenya and IEBC belongs to Kenya. So it just becomes an adjustment. The same thing with security. It has to go through the county government so that the country is held together by functionality, not this parallel duplication of responsibility at uko na county commissioner, uko na governor. And county commissioner and governor are always fighting. Now nasema hiyo ndio njia ya kuweka security. How do you put security by getting two people to be fighting? While they are fighting, people are dying, people are being abducted, people are being raped, property is being spoiled. So let's sober up. Tukitaka nchi iongozwe kikatiba na katiba ikuwe ndio sheria ambayo inalinda kila mtu. Lakini masuala ya kwenda kufix vitu kana kwamba tukusoma ama hatujielewi, all of it creating crisis after crisis. This ought not to be the case. Right now, we should not be having this kind of aspect that IEBC cannot function at 2 years, and we have not been able to reconstitute it. In fact, who made it unable to function? What did the General Ford do that they were housed out of office? There's nothing valid there. It was one person who stole elections. He didn't want to be caught, and he made a lot of noise. So he got rid of these people unjustly. They also deserve their justice. Let them be brought back to the office. Their matter is put aside. Now that nobody's contesting elections anymore, let the General Ford go back to the office. Let them begin to run IEBC. They are already vetted. They already sworn in. They were on payroll. Why should we go to a process of looking for other commissioners when we have these ones? They are not dead. They are here. Let's get them and get things working. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We must call it a day. Bishop, you will ngamua moja utuombee sisi tung'atuke, lakini ngoja tu kidogo. Kuna hii video sijui imesemaje, but let me just play it at risk.
Fellas, this is Gabon. Here is Gabon on a map. Beautiful country, lovely people, but they speak French. French is the main language. As you can imagine, they were colonized by the French. Now, Gabon has had for many, many years a family that ruled it for 42 years. First Omar Bongo, then his son. Then they were toppled by this person, Brice Oligui, who used to be a guard or senior guard in the Bongo family. Now, he's taken power, he's the president in transition. And this is what he had to say to the politician.
14 groupes électrogènes que vous avez installés dans les provinces. Donc, c'est des bénéfices pour vous. Vous n'avez pas fait de l'investissement. C'est nous qui le faisons maintenant pour vous.
Let me stop right there. He said, we gave you 14 power generators so you can supply electricity to the people as an alternative way of electricity. They are not here. They are in your villages. They are kept in your villages. Are these an investment for the country or a benefit for you people? Now, fellas, this is the president talking face to face with the politicians, the people that rob the people. He's speaking to them eye to eye. He's showing them, I am not a politician. I'm a soldier. Watch.
Parce qu'il faut vous aider. Mais quand il faut laisser les populations dans le noir, vous vous empressez de couper le courant. Nous avons encore livré 10 groupes électrogènes récemment et qui sont dans vos magasins. Je suis sidéré d'entendre sur 2500 agents de la SCG, vous n'arrivez pas à mettre ces groupes en marche depuis 2 mois qu'ils sont arrivés.
The generator's been there for 2 months and there's nobody who has taken time and resources that are available to put them together. Let me give you context, fellas. I know you're probably Americans and Caribbeans, you don't quite understand. So in many African countries, you have power breaks. We call them load shedding. So it's basically when there's no electricity available for whatever reason. Sometimes because there are too many demands, too much people looking for electricity, and the capability of the electrical industry is not on point. Therefore, they have to serve one group at a time. So that area get electricity from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock. Then they go off. The other area get from 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock. They go off. Then the other area, that's how they do it in many African countries. There are very little number of African countries that have electricity 24 hours a day, okay, until they get to that's for context. So alternatively, he bought big generators to supply electricity to the people. Now, what have they done to the generator? Number one, they have not made an effort to learn how the generators work. Number two, they've kept the generator in their villages, like private properties. You say, why? Who are you to do that? Let's go.
Vous n'êtes pas des techniciens. Ou vous ne connaissez pas votre métier. Et si on ne le connaît pas, il faut démissionner.
If you don't know your job, you must give up your resignment. You must resign. Resignation. Yeah, that's how you do it. You don't know your job, you must resign. Fellas, my question is, do we need this type of president in Africa who's going to say things the way they are? Let's go.
Un homme militaire disait, c'est honteux de faire un métier que l'on ne connaît pas. On vous a livré 10 groupes gratuitement qui sont là. Depuis 2 mois, on n'aurait pas vécu cette situation. 10 groupes de 2,5 mégawatts. Multiplié par 10, ça fait combien de mégawatts qu'on gagne?
There you go. Show me some math.
Et on se plaint.
You're complaining there's no electricity, but you have the generators. We gave you 10 generators. What have you done with it?
Donc vous-même, vous êtes incompétent. Je ne peux pas être militaire dans ma carrière, on me livre 10 Kalachnikov. Au bout de 2 mois, je ne sais pas utiliser. Ça veut dire qu'il y a un problème. Soit vous le faites exprès pour laisser les Gabonais dans le noir. Parce que tous autant que vous êtes diplômés de Polytech. Quand on regarde les CV, vous êtes tous des ingénieurs. Ou à moins que ces CV nous trompent.
Politicians, fellas. Politicians destroy Africa.
2 mois, on n'arrive pas à brancher 10 groupes. Et là, nous avons encore 7 groupes supplémentaires en mer qui sont en train d'arriver.
Other generators are coming. They are on the sea.
Ce serait la même chose.
You're going to do the same thing.
Donc pourquoi demander de refaire l'investissement, d'acheter des groupes si vous ne savez pas les brancher? Nous avons fait venir la centrale flottante, comme disait le ministre de l'Énergie. Elle est au large de nos côtes. Je pense que dans 2 mois, ils vont trouver des lignes pour la raccorder. Qu'est-ce que vous proposez à la place dans l'urgence? Au-delà des critiques, où chacun va sur les réseaux sociaux et faire ce qu'il veut. Donnez une solution.
All you do is criticize. You criticize me. But the things are within your hands. You're not doing anything about it. Incompetent.
Pour qu'on puisse avoir 150 mégawatts dans les 2 mois. Donnez-moi une solution. Vous n'en avez pas.
You have no solution, only critics.
Mais vous êtes fort pour critiquer ce qui s'est fait.
Look at this man. Look at them. Look how they look. It's like you have no ability to say anything.
Nous avons fait venir 22 500 compteurs d'électricité qui sont déjà livrés et qui sont là. À terme, pour le Gabon, je pense qu'il faut 400 000 compteurs. C'est ce type de compteur que nous voulons. Maintenant, vous devez me changer tous les anciens compteurs pour qu'on ne se retrouve plus dans la fraude.
You see the machine that counts the water can be tampered with. You see, you need to change all the machine. Yeah, you need to bring brand new machine. There's money allocated for that. Stop playing with people. Because people tamper with it so they can pay as much as they like. And the government doesn't see the return. Change those counting machines.
Si vous ne voulez pas travailler,
That is half of the video. We'll play the other one maybe in the next show, but you can get the drift, what's going on. Somebody who is in charge, and the other one is Kasongo. Now, Bishop, naomba tafadhali wewe utufungie tu. Daniel, just a moment, Bishop. Daniel, how are you?
Hello.
Hello to you.
Hello, good morning.
Morning from Nairobi. How is Papua? Sorry, Daniel, it seems your net is refused.
Yes. No,
Sorry, we can't get you clearly.
Okay, my friend.
Bishop, tuombee tafadhali tufunge. Bishop, are you there? Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for ensuring that you're part of the conversation. Tunaomba tafadhali, hata kama tumefunga, endelea kushare video. Kumbusha watu kwamba tunapatikana kwa Sound Candy Talk live. Sound Candy Talk bado tuko kesini, tutamaliza alafu tutarejelea matangazo yetu kama kawaida. Cha muhimu, hakikisha kwamba Kenya haitaangamia ukiwepo, utasimama imara, utekeleze wajibu wako. I think Bishop has joined with 2 gadgets. No wonder we are having poor communication. So, Bishop, where are you? Are you here? Okay, kick from studio. Sorry about that. Daniel, we are ending the show. You came late today.
Are you able to hear me? Oh.
No, yes.
Bishop, Bishop, you can only join with 1 gadget. You can't join with 2. The machine will refuse you. Oh, God. We are waiting for Bishop to come in and pray for us as we close. So, Daniel, oh, God.
I am not sure why there are 2. I'm not sure.
Oh, yes.
No, I've removed 1. So please just hit it. Give us the summary of your submission. Pray. Let's get out of here.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So thank you so much for the candid conversation from all the panelists. We thank you for contributions and ideas. And we know that we will be putting all this together so that we are able to follow up and pray that God will hear the Kenyan people. So let's pray. Father, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, the good Lord, the ruler of nations, the one who determined the boundaries of every nation and where people should live, we call upon your name today because we have an assurance in the word of God that when we call upon your name, we shall be saved. We commit this nation in your hands, O God. We ask you, Lord, to deliver us from bad governance, to deliver us from wrong leaders, to deliver us from malicious leaders, and Lord, to establish men and women from you. We thank you, Jehovah, because you have heard the cry of the children. You have heard the cry of the mothers. You have heard the cry of the fathers. And you, God, who hears the cry of your people, you will answer prayer for us. Thank you, Father. Rule over the State House, rule over the Senate House, rule over the Parliament House, and rule over the entire Kenyan boundaries. We thank you, Father, because you have heard our prayers. In the name of the sweet Lord, we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you for making time. We hope to engage into the next show. Remember, we're looking on how to stop Ruto from vying. That will be the main discussion as we continue to relook on the issue of IEBC, Supreme Court, and now institutions. Now institutions are becoming an issue. So nakuomba tafadhali tumakinike, subscribe kama uja subscribe kwa Sound Candid Talk live, and then of course talk to us in case you have something you will wish us to address. I want to salute every one of you. Thank you so much. We love and value each one of you and your input. Let's keep it here in ensuring that Kenya for all Kenyans is realized and justice for all is the focal point of every one of our actions. God bless you. Tukutane tutakapokutana.
Watu wa Mungu, Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Kipindi cha mahubiri kimerudi tena kwa kishindo kwenye Sound Candid Talk. Tunakufundisha, kukuelimisha na kukutia moyo kwenye Daily Bite. Mafundisho kamili ya Biblia kila siku kwenye runinga uipendayo ya Sound Candid Talk. Je, una maoni, malalamishi au kauli kinzani? Tunakusikiliza kwa maana wewe unatutazama. Wasiliana nasi kwenye simu 0718454585 au andika ujumbe mfupi katika barua pepe soundcandidtalk@gmail.com. Tumekuwa kipaumbele kudadavua taarifa za kutwa kila siku kwenye Open Forum Political Show. Tangu Januari, sasa Disemba tunayo. Tunachukua nafasi ya kipekee kusema asante mtazamaji na mpenzi wa kipindi cha Open Forum Political Show na Sound Candid Talk. Unaposherehekea sikukuu ya Christmas na mwaka mpya, tunakuahidi mema zaidi. Sound Candid Talk, we wish you Merry Christmas and Happy 2025.